work. If we try, baby, even until I die, we can make this work. 1, 2, 3.
I bid you all good morning, good evening, and good night, wherever you may be watching this transmission. Whether you're watching us from your condo in the sky, or to your camper in the woods, or just couch surfing, or maybe you're on a road trip, or relaxing on your lazy boy. People of the night, welcome to Mike in the Night. It's 3 a.m. and something is moving you. So crack open a window, sit back, relax, get some tea or coffee, because you're tuned in to Mike in the Night. Hashtag Mike in the Night. Track by Ralphie.co.New Zealand. Today I got a special guest for you. He's in the green room right now eating Doritos. He'll be on in a few seconds here. Florian Heise from Heise says, let's take a look. Disclaimer, we do not offer investment advice or medical advice. We are opinion driven. We don't know anything and we can't even read. This video should not be viewed by anyone ever. All right, guys, I really hope everyone's doing good out there across the Commonwealth. Thanks for watching. We got another chat open here. I cannot read it. It's in Russian. It looks like it's Russian or Slovak or something. But we got people from all over. And we got our crew from Iceland who's going to be joining us tonight from Reykjavik, who's going to be tuned into the show tonight. Okay, so what do we got going on? We got lots going on. Let's do a quick channel plug so we can get our guest in as soon as we can. So let's go to the channel plug section here. So let's go right from the beginning. Okay, guys, do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to catch last week's Mike in the Night. We had Peter Leeds, the Penny King stock in last week on Mike in the Night, and that was a pretty good show. Don't forget to set your reminders for next week whilst closing in. We're going to get first-time callers on. Don't forget to buy something on Teespring. And do not message me on Facebook. It's useless. I post on Facebook, and nobody sees anything. So don't even post on here. Don't even message me on here. They hold back your messages. And if you want to send me messages, send me directly on Instagram. This is the only way. This is the only platform that doesn't hold back your messages and say it's dangerous. So okay, here it is. Here we got Heise says, let's have a look. There's his channel right there. I'm going to give you guys a link to his channel. We could easily get him to 35K subscribers by the end of the next 2 weeks. And everybody's rolling in through the comments. And it looks like it's going to be a good show tonight. So let's get him on right now. He's being very, very patient in the green room there. And here we go. It's Heise says. Thank you so much.
Hey, Mike. How you going, mate?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Oh, I could hear you perfectly, buddy. Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, all good. All good.
Good.
Cheers.
So good. Okay, you got your drink there like you usually do. I got my lemon water here. I was going to go with some whiskey tonight, but I said, you know what? I got to go a little bit softer tonight because we got to get into some...
It's after 12 here. I could have got the rum and cokes. That's allowed. It's the afternoon.
Yes, it is. It is afternoon. Yeah. All right. So before we kick anything off, how you doing? You doing okay?
Yeah, mate. No, we're doing pretty fine over here. We're keeping out of trouble, all of us. Good. It's a crazy life with a huge family.
Yeah. Well, a huge family is the way to go. It actually feels like you're living. You actually feel like you got a more of a purpose, right? Instead of work.
Yeah. No, well, it changes your whole perspective on life. If anyone's considering having kids, just do it. Don't listen to all the rubbish.
Nope.
Just go for it.
Yep.
It changes your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go into a few headlines before we get into that. Where I'm going to go real quick into our headline section here. I got a little section I put together here from the questions that we asked you guys on the show last a couple of hours ago. I put up a few polls, so we're going to ask Florian what he thinks of the polls himself. So let's put him on. let's put him on full screen here, and I'm going to move this to the back, and we'll get Florian to answer these questions for us and how he feels politically, religiously, or psychologically about these questions. So I put up a poll. First poll was basically... Okay, let's go. I got to go back. There it is. Will going to hot war make sense anymore? First question on the poll was, nope, it's like fascists versus communists, 36%. 28% of you says yes, why not? And 9% says no, because that will make our Western leaders more powerful. And 27% says, I love China. So, Florian, where do you sit on this? Would going to hot war make any sense?
Oh, well, war never makes sense, at least for the average person it doesn't. You know, we always pay the price. There's always someone making money off us and getting more power. I can't see, I can't see escalating over in the Ukraine. I hope Biden won't be stupid enough to push something there. China's trying to increase its foothold. You're getting a lot of propaganda out there in the media, a lot of fear mongering because it gets the clicks, it gets the views, and people will watch it. And, here in Australia, every other day, it's, talk of war with China. I did, looking at China expanding, building a port just north of Australia in Papua New Guinea. Could this be a military base? We had one politician here in Australia, was Clive Palmer. He was worried about, Chinese landing aeroplanes in the middle of Australia and taking over, all of these things. So some of it I see it as a lot of propaganda coming out of the media. And if anything, we've seen just how much propaganda the media push all the time, particularly last few years in America. I can't see how it makes sense going to war. Everyone's going to lose too much.
But imagine we do go to war and we win, which I don't know about that. But imagine we do go to war and we win and our Western leaders get even more powerful.
But who's going to... Well, I was thinking about this. Here in Australia, we've got some fundamental issues with just the quality of life going down again and again and again. If they called up now, if they were saying, okay, Mike, you're drafted, you're going off to fight, so your kids can pay $1 million for a bloody house, are you going to do that, to fight for that?
No way,
no,
Jose.
not a million years. And you got 27% of people saying they love China. I mean, I know expats Australians who work in China, they pay less tax and they have a better quality of life. Yep. So how many people would be willing to actually just, blindly follow the propaganda as they would have in the past? Because that would have been all what they got. And now I think you'd have a bit of a harder time getting the masses riled up. At least I'm hoping. Maybe I'm naive. A bit of a harder time getting the masses riled off to go and march into war. I think there'd be a lot more dissent in Western countries. But
okay, so you see more saber rattling is what it is.
I think it's more political posturing, saber rattling, moving tanks around and I can't. Maybe I'm just being naive and hopeful, the optimist, that it won't escalate into something.
And I hope you're right. I honestly, wholeheartedly hope you're right. Okay, next question.
Yep.
Next question we asked on our poll was, I feel like the mainstream media is, and we have 98% saying making crap up as they go along, and 2% says honest and true watchdog for the people at 2%. How do you feel on that? What were the options? Making crap as they go along and honest and good watchdog? Right, 98%. 98% said making crap as they go along was 98% of the vote, and 2% said honest and true watchdog for the people. Well, I think the 2% is people who wanted to see the result of the poll and just clicked on anything. That's what I think it was. Okay. That's the problem with those ones. But I mean, look at the US, what's happening over there. Isn't there just some young kid that was apparently shot by a police officer? And It looks like some of the footage was doctored to remove the fact he had a handgun in his hands. I just saw that before. So I don't know how, and all this stuff about CNN is now coming out, and you've got the social medias that won't let you share particular stories because it goes against their favorite political side. I mean, you have to be very skeptical, I think, about anything that we can get in the media these days. I don't trust it. You know what I like the best is when they get these has-been, like most of them are has-been, celebrities to come on and say, yeah, I support this and I support that. And if you followed me in all these movies and you're a real American, you'll do this. I love when they get the celebrities in there. I love it. I mean, does it work? No, they look like idiots.
Well, this is the thing. You've got a whole lot of people, mate, that all they get in their news is probably just the headline, and they don't dig any deeper to it. And maybe they'll just happily follow their favorite celebrity. But how many people have the time to really dig into it any further and to question it? So, yeah, I mean, I don't believe it, and I'm sure you don't trust them that your favorite celebrity is getting up there and endorsing stuff. So.
They should speak. A lot of them should stick to acting and singing or whatever they do for a living and just keep it at that, right?
It just shows how you can make a lot of money even when you're just pretty stupid, but you look pretty and you know what you're doing. Backup career for us, mate.
All right, next question on the poll. I'm watching this channel from 49% is watching from Canada, surprisingly. Wow, it's usually U.S. is always first. United States of America, 31%. Australia, 16%. New Zealand, 3%. And the United Kingdom, 1%. Where do most of the people that watch your channel are from?
I'm getting about 80% Australian.
Okay.
Australian audience. Because I talk mainly about Australian news. So that's kind of where my demo is. A little bit in Canada, a little bit in America, a few in Germany and the UK, but mostly Aussies and a few New Zealanders, but they'll join the Federation soon enough. Don't worry. We'll let you in, Kiwis.
What camp or what camp is or what federal agency would be? So Australia would be federal camp 1114. New Zealand's 1115. The UK is 1113. Canada's 1112. America's 1111. FEMA camp zoned region.
I thought UK was airstrip 1.
What is it?
I'm getting my books mixed up.
I'm just being sarcastic here. Okay. So, now the reason why I've been, I talk about Australia, and I've been talking about for a couple of years now, is because I think, this is just my opinion, that Australia is the proving ground or the test ground for the Commonwealth to kind of maybe spread it out towards all the other English-speaking countries. We all have a lot in common. Not only do we speak English, but we also have unaffordable housing in almost every English-speaking country. We also have foreign investing that's pretty much predominant in our markets. And there's a lot of things we have in common. Now, Amerifornia is coming because their new president-select, not elect, select is now in power. And he's going to push that Amerifornia quick to keep up with Australia, Canada, and Mr. Joe Biden is always pointing to Canada, saying, look how good Canada is. Look at Canada. Look what they're doing. They're so law-abiding. Am I right or am I delusional? Is Australia the pinnacle or is it testing ground or is it England now?
Well, I mean, Australia is a small market. We've always been a testing ground for everything. You know, products that have come out here and they'll roll it out for that exact same reason. But I mean, the question is, are we just following a lot of the trends and the ideological push that's coming out of America, maybe from California? If you look at what's happening in the Labor Party here in Australia, they've adopted a lot of woke policies. And I just spoke about an article yesterday that was just highlighting the fact that they seem to have lost their entire working class roots. And we're getting all these push again and again of these progressive, very, Americanish policies that are coming out that are just going through the whole culture. So we do have a lot of similarities, but I don't know if we're a test bed or if we're just copying what's coming out of America and it's rolling out a bit quicker here because we've got a much smaller footprint to push and to move. So it could be one way or the other.
I thought Australia was because they're rolling out. I know they're rolling out the 5G up in Darwin, and they're doing the social credit score up in Darwin. They've been testing that out up there before this whole COVID fiasco. But now I'm kind of leaning towards England. They might want to Englify the rest of the world because England now is issuing $5,000 fines if you leave without any good reason. They're now looking to never allow people to leave. Now we got that article now that came up with Australia that came out the other day too. We got a lot of stuff that looks like England is now the new testing. Like it's kind of like ahead of Canada a bit when it comes to technocracy and bureaucracy and red tape and misleading who's number one in misleading their country? Is it Australia? Is it Canada?
Well, you've got to think about this thing. We're in a global world now, so everyone can pick and choose. So I mean, if we look at the response that's happened around the entire world with regards to the lockdowns and the restrictions that have been put in place, I would argue that, just before remember when we had the bird flu and all of these other things coming out?
Right.
There were people making the same, they were calling in public for lockdowns and all these restrictions. But there were famed epidemiologists writing papers, putting arguments out that they're going, no, the economic impact of these restrictions are too severe, and they're suggesting all of these other methods. I did a video actually going through it. No one's even talking about it now. The media is completely going lockstep in with this particular economic intervention. The actual validity of it is, there's no evidence to say that it's working. But I would argue you've got all these bureaucrats, and this is where I think the real issue is. You've got the bureaucratic class in a lot of Western countries. We can vote out anyone who we want, but the bureaucrats still remain, and they have a lot of power, they have a lot of control, and they have a lot of influence. Now we're having all these
secret committees.
These pardon?
Secret committees.
Yes, yeah. Well, we've got those two, but you've got all these bureaucrats going to these events like these preparation events for world pandemics or world plagues. So then they're all primed. They're all ready. So when something rolls out, they can all start being the hero. They can all start being the savior. And then we have this seemingly coordinated push around the whole world because they're all hearing the same things. They're all talking to the same people. Like we had an election here in Queensland, and we had a Labor premier, and the conservative alternative, which isn't very conservative, with regards to lockdowns and economic restrictions, there was no difference. No difference at all. They would just listen to what the bureaucrats were telling them, just following in that in lockstep. And it's the same thing now in all the states around here. So that's where I wouldn't say it's more coordinated effort like pushing out on this one here to test it. I would say it's the flow of information coming down through the bureaucratic class, and it just bubbles up in different countries at different times. So that's why you start to see these same stupid ideas appear everywhere. Because, look at the World Economic Forum. You get people going to that, then, civil servants, and then it comes down through their organizations, and all of a sudden you have maybe some, policies appearing at a local council level that can impact you at a citizen level. That's filtered all the way down through there. So you're getting these people repeat this rhetoric that they've heard, and the problem is that's embedded.
I call it trickle down rhetoric.
Yeah, and it's embedded in these organizations, and you can't, even when you get the politicians out, the political leaders out, you still have this thinking in these organizations, and that's the real danger. And that's what I'm concerned about. So that's why we can see something happening in the UK, something happening in America, something happening in Australia. Because these people, they all talk, they all network, they all socialize, they all work together, and that knowledge base is just shared. And that's what I'm starting to see is people become politically activated. There was a pregnant mother in Melbourne that got arrested for trying to organize a protest against the lockdowns. Remember when that happened? It made all the news. That was probably the first time she was politically activated. First time she ever actually could be bothered. I'm guessing here, I'm assuming it's Australia.
Right.
So we're pretty lazy when it comes to politics. I bet you that was the first time she stepped up, and that's the response she got. So that's where I'm hoping more people will start to realize how much power we've handed over to the state.
Right. Now, let me ask you, a lot of this trickles down from the mainstream media. Now, I want to ask you this. Do you think the people, like, I guess, working at the media, the guys who, like, regurgitate what they're told to say and stuff, do you honestly think they really don't know what's going on? Or do they really know what's going on and they have to keep their jobs? But are a lot of these people completely out to lunch and really think they're doing a good thing by lying to us? Or what do you think? Whose fault? Like, you can't blame someone that doesn't know how to ski well if they do bad on a ski run, but like, you can't blame the the reporter if he doesn't know that what he's reporting is fake or what he's told to do at his job. Are they clueless, or are they on board with this too?
Well, it depends, mate. How often have you met someone that's here's an example. I had a discussion just with a family friend, and we were talking about lockdowns. Mm-hmm. And they were repeating back to me, just trust the science, trust the science. And I'm there going, well, you've never done science even at high school. You've got no understanding of it. You never worked with it in your profession. So it's this propaganda that just trickles down, and people just start repeating the same thing. So that's the thing. People I honestly think people think they're doing good when they're trying to, oh, well, look at Trump. How many people in America thought he was, Uber Hitler? They all hated him over there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were in this position, think if you thought Uber Hitler was in charge and you had to get him out, or else he'd bring down the country, he'd destroy democracy, wouldn't you be willing to change, risk losing your job or risk losing to jail because you were the hero, secretly just move those files around, leak that information, just make up that story? That's the problem when people get in this frankly psychosis of a fear. They may be willing to compromise their own ethics and think they're doing the right thing. Right. How can we not say this is happening here? So all it takes is just enough propaganda and enough fear, and then you get all these people seemingly working cohesively together because they're just hearing the same thing again and again and again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it makes a lot of sense. Makes total sense, actually. All right, so the other question I asked on the poll was, Chinese investing has crippled the real estate market in my area. 69% said yes, 18% said no, and I love China, 13%.
Well, it's a big player here in Australia, more than you'll realize. You'll have people come out and say, no, Chinese investment isn't that big. There are other players here in Australia, particularly like I was talking to you before off air, like America coming in. Now, I'm actually in a unique situation where I've worked on big projects from Bechtel, huge American engineering firm, big mines. Took me longer to get to fill out the paperwork, to get a number to put on my drawing than it took me to do the whole mine project, but that's another story of bureaucracy. But I mean, that's huge investment. And then when I was looking at the Foreign Investment Review Board figures, we'd have a lot of money coming in from Asia, from China, Hong Kong, all of those countries there. And it was primarily going into apartments or smaller investments. So, China, in particular, Hong Kong, these countries here, their investments in Australia may not be as big as what's coming in America, but it's going to have a greater impact on our housing because more people are investing in property here in Australia. Because property is an obsession here. How is it in Canada? I mean, here we've got
it's a severe obsession.
Yeah?
FOMO is crazy. FOMO is so crazy. Fear of missing out. The media likes to back FOMO and tell people that it's a great thing and you'll never buy if you never own and you'll be left out forever. And all it takes is for them to raise interest rates, and a lot of people. Now, which is going to lead me to this question, and I've asked this on other guests on the show. And I want to ask you this question. It's very, very important. Okay. To me, in Canada, because there's so much foreign money that's been brought into here, and most of it has been put into our real estate. Now, just in 2020 alone, we got $46 billion in 2020 alone in our real estate. America's crying over $11 billion in their real estate, saying it's out. We're becoming homeless because of this $11 billion that was brought in 2020 by China. It says Chinese investors. Now, Canada got $46 million with 35 million people. Now, for me, if interest rates go up, I believe that the Canadian proper will default. But I believe that there's so much of a crater of foreign investing that it will have a little blip on the housing market, a little bit of a 7-8% correction, and then it'll go back up again because the Canadian proper or the people born, people 3-4 generation, whatever, just come to Canada to build and be here and raise families. I'm a Portuguese. I'm an immigrant. But the thing is, what I'm trying to say is there enough foreign influence in in your country, like there is in Canada, that if it was to fall apart for the Canadian proper, it doesn't matter. The housing market will still continue because there's so much outsourced and there's so much we sold off. That's my question.
So you're asking, will they turn the tap on to keep the property bubble going, really?
But but what I'm saying is there enough foreign investing in Australia that if they do raise interest rates, a lot of the Australian, especially the interest-only mortgages you guys did there, and the mortgages you guys did loan to value 100% LTV with almost no money down, that was a big problem in 16, 17, and 18. Now, if they raise interest rates in Australia, a lot of the Australian proper will default or have a tough time if it goes 3-4%.
See, I mean, we did have a peak in foreign investments back in 2017-18.
Right.
And that was the peak. It came down. That kind of, funnily enough, it lines up with all of the bloody apartment disasters we're having here in Sydney.
Opal.
Oh, Opal's
Opal.
one of them. Mascot
Opal.
now. I spoke about that yesterday, mate. They're looking at selling the whole thing and demolishing it.
You know what? It was built on a dump anyway.
Wait, that's Sydney, mate. You can't say that, okay? No, hey, come on.
No, but wasn't it Olympic Village, and then before it was a dump, right?
Oh, it's all contaminated ground. It's really, it's shit. It is. There's another building they can't even get into it because they dug the contaminated dirt out, and you know what they did? They didn't take it away. They put it under the road. They were building next to the bloody buildings. So now no one can live there. But that's another topic. Yeah, man. Oh, there's lots of stories. I mean, that's what happens. I would argue that's what happens when the market overheats, when it overheats. And so that's come down. That investment is foreign investment that was pumping a lot of that has come down. It's not as hot as it was.
Okay.
So there's still foreign investment here. It's cooled down a bit. Now, what they've started doing in WA, they were giving stamp duty incentives to foreign investors. So they were giving discounts to the tax they're charging them to encourage more of them to invest in Australia.
50
which
large,
pretty much
right?
just, pardon?
50,000?
Yeah, but it pretty much just made them in line with normal Australians buying in. But then there's also all of the other money that they're chucking at people to get in the property. So it's funny, we got two markets here in Australia. You got the housing market, and it's going nuts. It is going absolutely nuts. You lock people up, they suddenly realize, you know what, I want a backyard. I want a bit of breathing room around me. I want a quarter-acre block. That's what you grew up with. Our culture hasn't quite gone to where the Europeans are growing up in apartments yet. People still want the houses. Now, a lot of the apartments, a lot of the student accommodation, that's all fueled by the foreign investment coming in. And the question is, will they turn the tap on again to start flooding that back in? That's what I kind of suspect they will. Your concern is if that foreign investment drives up, or if the interest rates go up, it'll bump out the local Australians,
right?
And the foreign investment will come back in. Now, I think there's a bigger divide in the classes here in Australia than a lot of people realize. I think there's some people there that are earning, six figures, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. A lot of them working out in the mines. They're doing quite well. They're not going to even notice it. Then you've got other people. You've got the people who are struggling that maybe are going right to the bone to get in there. They might get pumped out, but is it going to be significant? Is it going to be enough to actually shift the market? We've seen all the interventions that they'll do. They've done JobKeeper to prop up entire businesses. They're doing, mortgage holidays. I never even imagined that would happen. I just thought, okay, I'll borrow enough to make sure I can pay it no matter what's going on. Mm-hmm. But you've got people who are jumping in now who are purely worried about their repayment ability. And they're kind of, they're thinking, yeah, I'll make do. They're going to keep interest rates at low. Good old low, he told us it's going to be low for 4 years. We'll worry about the future later. So that's what I can imagine a lot of people are doing. I'm just hoping they're not going stupid with the money. They're not borrowing $1 million for a shit box.
Okay, well, here's the thing. Now, this is going to leak it. It's going to transition into the next question I have. Can you see Australian banks going into negative interest rate territory? Parts of Europe are doing it. England's thinking about it. Even America brought it to the table. Even Canada brought it to the table. Do you see Australia maybe going into negative interest rate territory?
Well, with our current Reserve Bank governor, I can't see it happening because he doesn't see any benefit in it. Because apparently, if you have negative interest rates, people save more. I think the damage to confidence would be insane. Could you imagine that if all of a sudden we started getting negative interest rates? It would just decimate business and consumer confidence. It couldn't be any good.
Right.
Europe's a bit of a basket case. I can't see it happening here in Australia. They're going to try and do whatever they can to kick the can down the road. And that's what our politicians have shown us, that they're going to intervene in the market to keep this housing going. I can't see them doing anything else.
Well, I'm going to throw up an article here just to so you were talking about turning on the taps to bring in more foreign investing. So here's the article here, folks, that I'm talking about. So here it is. This is a big deal, and this is on the back page of Canadian News. Hong Kong residents transfer billions to Canada as China clamps down, and 43.6 billion in electronic funds. This is a fraction of what they brought in. This was brought in 2020. This wasn't brought in the last 5 years, 2020 alone. And that's why our housing market has been so hot in Canada. It's on fire. And the problem with this is America is crying. America's crying over $11 billion invested in their housing market by foreigners in 2020. Most of it went to Seattle, New York, and other cities. But still, Canada, what's going to happen to a country like Canada with 35 million, and we're bringing in so much money? What's going to happen to our little frail economy?
See, this is an interesting one. It comes back to here in Australia, we've got this rather perverse situation, I'd say, where so much investment is driven towards housing.
Right.
We've got an obsession with housing. The media's with housing. My mechanic who was doing a roadworthy certificate on my car, he was looking at buying his third house.
Right.
You know, I was reading articles about teachers who'd bought 5 houses, negative geared them all, and were now crying because they may not be able to make the payments.
Oh.
We're obsessed with property. I mean, he was an idiot, but we're obsessed with property here. And one thing I harp on in a lot of my videos is our declining economic complexity that's going down. We're not manufacturing anything here. We dig holes, we ship stuff overseas, we teach people English when they come over here, and we sell apartments. You know, that's what we do. And I mean, if you've got a foreign investment coming into a country, fantastic if that creates new jobs, new opportunities.
I could see
if
it
people
working
come and start businesses. But if it's all just going into one sector, it'll be the Cantillon effect. It'll be a new injection of money supply, and you get a bubble going there. So we need to, I know Australia, we need a long-term wean off our property addiction. We need to wean off it because both sides of politics, if the economy is going to shit, what they'll do is they'll get the pinata of the housing industry. They'll just whack it until the candy of economic activity falls out. They don't care. They did it in the GFC. Rudd was pumping out the bats. He did the education revolution. This is where they'd like demolish buildings and rebuild them.
Right.
And it's all on housing. And the problem is it works in a way because it keeps juicing the economy now. We've got more people working. You talk to my certifier, he was flat out. But it only stimulates one part of the economy, and it just continues that obsession with property. So people get this mentality. The last recession is 28 years. How many people don't even remember the last recession? Their whole working lives, they've only been good times. Mm-hmm. And we get to a point now where people only think property only ever goes up. If it ever gets tough, the government will just bail you out. They'll just chuck money at it. So it'll just keep going again and again and again. And here's the thing. People they'll look out for themselves. So a smart person, they'll think, oh, okay, you know what? I don't like this policy. I don't like that. There's some people who are investors in property, and they'll intentionally vote for political parties that limit development to provide more low-cost housing to keep their property up.
Right.
There's one development going out near Ipswich, a little town inland from Brisbane. They were looking at building some houses. Average price for buyers would be about 400 grand.
Whoa.
Now, 400 grand, that's cheap, mate.
Yeah.
400 grand is cheap, okay? You can afford to pay that pretty easily on a mortgage, decent income with a couple. And they were protesting that because it was near an indigenous site, an old Aboriginal mission. And the people protesting it, they were living in $1 million houses right in the middle of Brisbane, 1 million plus, right in the heart of the city. And it's things like that stop. Supply is a big issue too, because, foreign investment, sure, that's one thing, but it's just the council's restricting supply, how long it takes to get anything off the ground to build something, how much rigmarole and BS you got to put up with. I mean, just getting a house built, you got to get in all these environmental and energy reports. You got to tick all these boxes. It's $1,000 here, another $1,000 here, and it all adds up. And all of a sudden, your costs blow up. So there's a lot to this bloody property pie, and it's frustrating because people will only look out for themselves in the short term, even if they realize in the long term it's gonna screw all of us.
All right.
Did I answer your question, or am I rambling again? I'm probably rambling again.
All right, that's fine. You're doing good. You're doing great. What are you drinking there?
Coffee, mate. Straight black.
Straight black coffee? Yeah. I have my coffee with 1 cream, and I already had mine earlier today.
You got to try. Have you tried the keto coffee? The kind of where you have just butter and coffee, just that for your meal. You know, that's your breakfast. You need to do that next time you go for one of your drives in the country. Just have a butter coffee, mate.
Yeah, that's
You know,
what I'll
that'll be your
do.
lunch.
With butter, yeah. Okay, so I got this article up here, and it's kind of concerning. I'm going to show the folks at home. I took a screenshot of it, and I kind of want to kind of get your. Oh, guys, we got our make plywood cheap again hats again. Make plywood cheap make plywood cheap again. There it is, right there. We're going to be selling them in the store. Make plywood cheap again hats. Okay.
Did I tell you? I told you in the comments. I took my wife to Bunnings that night.
Yes.
For a date.
Yes.
he posts this meme on his community tab. You know, take me somewhere special, and it's the guy taking the chick out to dinner at the hardware shop, and I literally just did that because we didn't have the kids, mate. It's like a date.
Yep. Here it is. Take me somewhere expensive. Yeah. Okay, so here it is, guys. So here it is. Are you ready for this one? Will Australia's zero COVID strategy keep it locked up for years? Health Minister says there is no guarantee travel will be allowed even after the entire population is finally vaccinated. Can you please tell us what the hell they're trying to sell us in this? Tell me this is a joke.
I think it's clickbait. I think it's clickbait. I think they'll, you know, honestly, okay. You come to a next election, someone tries to run with that, they'll get hammered. There'll be enough people, and the tourism industry is screwed already. Mm-hmm. You know, the idiots are closing the borders one state to another. You look at the bankruptcy numbers up the coast of Queensland, all these business people are struggling. Yeah, no, it's. I mean, sure they can say it. We'll see how long it sticks there. You know, just look at Sweden. Look at what's happening there. You know, the media's dogpiling on it, but the information's coming out. This is the thing. We can actually get access to information and knowledge now more than we ever could. So then you've got the ability to question your authority figures. And sure, you know, you may have the two parties there just going lockstep, but here in Australia, you've got one nation that's bringing things to the table and at least getting some publicity around it. So, you know, I'm not going to be too worried about it in the long term. I think they'll overreact like they have through all of this entire process. And I bet you, I think it's just to scare people to get it. Okay. I think that's what the thing is. You know, you're afraid to, you may be on the fence. You may be afraid, oh, I want to travel. We better all get it. We better all get it. Because, I mean, the media's doing another number with all the blood clots as well, scaring everyone too. So it's a complete mess. The whole thing's a bloody mess.
Yeah, it's a disaster. Okay, so here's this one from the BBC. I'm going to put this one up for everyone to see. This one's kind of concerning. Covey, £5,000 fine for people going on holiday abroad, and this is coming from the UK. They're fining people for going away, and is this let me tell you what I'm thinking. What this means. This means the brain drain. I'm thinking that a lot of people that know and have assets and may sell them might just want to go to Portugal, Argentina, maybe want to go somewhere else and take their currency with them, their money, their life, their livelihood, just start over somewhere else. I'm thinking that Canada's border is still closed with the United States, but I could go to China if I want on a plane. There's no problem, but I can't go to Texas. But I'm thinking it's the brain drain. I'm thinking more and more. I've spoken to many doctors here in Canada, surgeons, all kinds, plastic surgeons, radiologists. They're like, Mike, I'm going to Florida. Mike, I'm going to Texas. Mike, I'm going to Northern California with my brother. Mike, I'm done with Canada. Do you think they're doing this because they're losing people of importance? Could it be that?
I haven't thought about that. That's an interesting take on it. They want to stem the people from getting away. No. You're right, because if you have the option to get out of some draconian, shithole and go somewhere else, you'll see it happening. I mean, people are leaving Victoria now. That's our version of California, right down the bottom of Australia, right, with Daniel Andrews. I'm sure you would have talked about some of his fantastic implementations there that he's put in. Mm-hmm. The biggest, most harshest lockdown in the world. They stuffed up the complete hotel quarantine system. They hired people based on, what was it? I think indigenous quotas. There's some real rubbish there with how they went through the process. So people are leaving there. So I mean, that's a valid argument that you're putting there. You know. That's pretty sad that it's getting to that point. That's the flip side of having the free ability of people to move around. Because if a country's doing bad, they either put up the Iron Curtain again to keep the population in, or they've got to make it a better country to keep them in, to attract them.
Right. And that's the problem we're facing here with a Canadian. We have a great Canadian brain drain. And a lot of people don't know there's close to 41 million Canadians. No, sorry, 31 million Canadians living in the United States since 1974. So that's almost the population we have now. So there's I think there's more Canadians living outside of Canada now because of what's been happening. So now it's the reason why I asked you this, Florian, at the beginning was, do you think Australia could be the first domino to fall or the first testing ground? Now, let me tell you, they're trying to pull a Victorian-style lockdown in Canada now, like you guys had. They're following your playbook, and here it is. Here's the article. Ontario setting up checkpoints at borders with Manitoba and Quebec to limit entry amid surge of COVID cases. So remember, guys, on this channel, cases don't mean deaths, right? It's a little bit different. There's a lot of very big. I'm a doctor, but cases don't mean deaths. So here it is right here. So they're setting up the checkpoints, and the second I saw this, I thought of Victoria when they set up those checkpoints. But in Canada, they're going to go more with a military-style checkpoint between provinces. So,
well, I had a family member who just traveled interstate. We just had a 3-day lockdown here, so he had to delay when he was moving, and he had the police checkpoints stopping him there to check. He had to get, I think, three COVID tests now when he's in South Australia. I mean, it's the problem is if one leader does this in public and it wins elections, which I think is the real reason for lockdowns. I mean, here in Queensland, they won the election, no problem. We'll see how Dan Andrews goes. New Zealand, she came in with an election, no problems. Western Australia, a complete steamrolling of the opposition. They were, strict on the border controls. They had, lockdowns as well. They made sure they wore their face masks when they were fighting the bloody bushfires. So if someone does it, there are going to be others calling for it. And if you step out, if you're like here in Australia, every Labor politician is doing it. If you don't step up and do it, people will criticize you for it now. So the problem is it's going to become the de facto standard. And I'm kind of worried that they'll start implementing and calling for these type of things for just normal situations, normal illnesses, normal things that wouldn't have made any difference in the past. That's what scares me more, because this really feels like an insane overreaction. I don't know. You tell me.
It's definitely a severe overreaction because cases don't mean deaths. You look at Florida, they had hardly any lockdowns. There's no social distancing. There's no mandatory masks. And Florida's free and clear. And they had the Super Bowl there. They had all kinds happening there. So, I mean, can't we model after Florida? And now they're auditing. Now, the governor there, well, obviously is very heavily conservative, and he wants to audit the death certificates, and that's a big issue. And the media is starting to kind of backpedal on it. And not only that, they're making him into a racist for wanting to audit the that's the best. They're making him into a racist for wanting to audit and protect his citizens to find out what is really going on. Okay, now we're gonna trail into another question, and this is on the front page of the Australian. You got this bald guy here. I'm not sure who he is. More freedom for vaccinated Australians. I'll tell you his name. Stuart Robert III says some Australians could be allowed to travel overseas and return via home quarantine before vast majority of population has been vaccinated. Are they propagandizing this there too, where the more vaccinated you are, the more freedoms you get? Are they doing that too, Florian?
I see it coming out in the media too. I think it's the same thing. It's to encourage people to take it, honestly, because people don't want to. You can't. We've look at all of the other medical disasters that have happened throughout the times. There's a lot of people who are not anti-vaxxers who take vaccinations who are just going to wait a little bit longer, maybe wait a year. What is the chances? I'm 40. Okay, I could take the vaccination, or I could, improve my diet, lose some weight, get healthier. That can also maybe even go out in the sunlight. That could help as well. All of that stuff. Honestly, there's never a discussion about the comorbidities. You never hear. Have you ever heard that in the media? They're just thinking, okay, take the vaccine, you'll be fine. What about the fact that so many of us are morbidly obese or overweight, or diabetes, which is 40 times more likely to be hospitalized if you get it? No discussion about that. No wonder it's going crazy in America.
Florian, You know, a lot of people don't know this, but do you know that actually being alone and like you don't have to be depressed, but living alone is actually more being alone or isolated is actually more dangerous than being obese? I did not know that. There was an actual.
I'm not. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So what we're seeing here. So now let me get your take on this. Remember, cases don't mean deaths. Now let me take your take on this. Japan. January 2021. More people died in January 2021 in Japan, it's on record, from suicide than died of COVID in all of 2020. Can you maybe weigh in on that?
Well, mate, there's a lot of social issues in Japan, but this is the thing. The media picks what they want to worry about, you know? What they focus on, what they're scared about. I remember when I went over in Japan for a holiday. Well, not for a holiday, for a one night of drinking in Tokyo with a mate.
Woo!
And he was a local, so we went to Ragapungi, the red light district. We were, getting drunk, having food. It was great fun. And I remember going down the train station and said, "What are all these things here? There are all these barriers everywhere." And he said, "Suicide prevention." Because people are chucking themselves in front of the train, and that was a bit of a culture shock to me coming from Australia, because we don't have any of that stuff here. But there's a whole lot of other social issues over there as well. With regard, I mean, have you seen the stats on how few people have had sex by the time they're like 30 or 35? It's just crazy.
Yeah.
And there's all these people just living at home, not interacting, and you kind of have this weird culture where they want to have a traditional family life, but then you've got to work like a nutcase, so you don't spend any time together. They've got an aging population as well. So Japan has got a lot of issues. And then if we talk about the whole financial system there, where they're just buying the entire stock market, the Reserve Bank, that's a whole other world. But I mean, you're right. They're focusing on this virus because it's the fear. It's the fear. And I mean, how much of it is clicks and money and advertising and revenue for these newspapers that are struggling? I even see it with ABC, our public broadcaster here. They'll write some piece of garbage like about people thinking Bluey isn't diverse enough because they know it'll get clicks. So these nutcases, these people that years ago, back in the day, would have been in a mental institution, but now they're all over bloody Twitter and the internet because we don't have these facilities anymore. They're getting traction, and their stupid opinions are getting magnified because it's so outrageous. And I think we take advantage of that too. When we read this, we go, "This is so stupid, I got to talk about this." So you jump on YouTube and you vent about it because it's therapy for us, being middle-aged dads going, "What the hell is this garbage?" But then that kind of artificially magnifies this stupid. And it depends on the circles you're in too. I was talking to a gentleman this morning, and he's just disconnected from the news. He just says, "I've had enough. I can't deal with this shit. I'm just not paying any attention to it and stepping away." So that I think that's more of a case of where they're just honing in on the coronavirus because it gets the attention. I mean, have you looked at the Johns Hopkins recovery data? That's what I like to talk about, is how many people recover from this bloody coronavirus. It's fantastic. It's good news. It's positive. Yes. No one watches positive news on YouTube. You do a happy story, you get like 5% of the views. But the number of people that have got it in Victoria, gotten healthy and are going on, that's fantastic. But it's never mentioned because you're right. It's all about cases, and most people are fine.
We should discuss deaths, not cases, because if once you start discussing deaths, you're going to start taking a step back. You'll take a step back and start realizing, wait a minute, more people died in their showers, slipped in the showers and died, than this, or fell down the stairs than this, so that becomes an issue, right? So how do you answer to that, right? So, Flo, what does ABC stand for?
The Australian Broadcasting Corporation.
Oh, damn, I thought that stood for Always Broadcasting Crap.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
That's what I call it.
No. Well, no, mate, they've got Bluey. You may not have seen that. This is a kid's cartoon set in Brisbane with, a little blue healer. The kids love it. They're all over it now. I mean, I've got daughters that age that just watch it, so it's on all the time in my house.
Okay.
Mate, how old are your boys?
My son is 6, my daughter's 4, and my littlest is 2.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Show them Bluey, mate. I think your boy and your daughter will love it. It's some Australian culture coming through there, but that's the one good thing coming from ABC. That's probably it. But I mean, that's made it in the media because it's not diverse enough. That's what they're criticizing.
My son, we watched he saw all the police academies. He's seen all the movies like that. So we watched all the Terminators. We watched and my son wants to watch Scarface so bad. And I'm like, oh, we gotta wait for Scarface till you're at least 12. You know what I'm saying? If you tell him at school, because he keeps saying, "Say hello to my little friend," right? So I have to be careful because he grew up more of like, I don't know. He's growing up more of like, kind of like we watch the A-Team all the time, the old A-Team, and he likes watching the Dukes of Hazzard, right? So we watch, and he wants to get a General Lee and, like a car. And so my kids are a little bit, but.
Yeah, it's the worrying thing is all your bad habits are reflected back on you. So you can't really get angry at them when they're doing something you do. So you got to behave.
I would try to behave. I try to be, Okay, so this was in the news, and this is taken headlines, and you kind of touched on it a bit with the whole making love for the first time, blah, blah, blah. Shocking predictions about sperm count that could have a huge ramifications for humanity. So what's going on? Sperm count's going down. A lot of countries have a higher death rate than a birth rate. Like Italy's got a higher death rate than a birth rate. I think Canada's up there too. A couple other countries are in there too. I think Greece is like that too. I want to thank Nico Greco for sending me $2 Australian. Thank you so much. That should be enough gas money to get me. Yeah.
That's come out of Victoria, mate. He smuggled that out of Victoria, out of Afghanistan. So, yep.
That wasn't laundered or anything through a suitcase or a casino.
It's probably taken off stamp duty from the state government, from Victoria, yeah.
Thank you, Nico. Okay, sperm count, what's going on? What are we looking at in the next 10, 15, 20 years? Like, I mean, if this is real or 10% of this is even real.
It's diet, mate. It's diet. Look at. I mean, I've gone down the whole low carb carnivore path. I've kind of slipped up the last month, but I'm watching a whole lot of American doctors that are curing people of diabetes. I've had my own father-in-law cure his diabetes. No more medication, just to change a diet. Everyone in America is eating all this processed shit, the standard American diet. It's all all the seed oils. That should be for lubricating your chainsaw. It shouldn't be for eating. And people are eating this stuff because it's cheap. It's so cheap. Now what really scares me is the hippies and what's his name? Gates pushing this fake meat garbage.
Let me ask you a quick question before we go into meat, please, if that's okay.
Yep.
Can Bill Gates do 10 push-ups?
It depends. How many people is he allowed to have lift him up?
Because he's the self-appointed World Health, what do you call it? World Health self-appointed philanthropist, 2-time world champion, astronaut, and now he can't even do 10 push-ups. How can you have a health minister not be able to do 10 push-ups? Okay, continue.
Wasn't there that health minister from the Netherlands, like this super morbidly obese fat woman? Didn't you see that? Look it up. Look it up on Google, mate. Okay, so it doesn't matter. But
okay, so you were saying you were going into these guys or the diets and the fake meat. Yes, are we gonna be eating either they've been talking about this too, human flesh or processed fake meat? They have
human. He was talking about human flesh. At least that'd be protein. It'd probably be better for you than all the garbage that you get in the fake meat. Not that you want to resort to that shit. I mean, come on. I mean, look at the whenever there's like a disaster, like even here, when like everyone goes crazy. Oh no, we've got a 3-day lockdown. Let's empty the bloody supermarket of toilet paper and food for 3 days. And you go there and you're looking at the meat section, and the only meat that's left is all this vegan crap. All this fake meat, and you look at the back of the packet, and it's mostly pea protein and all these different vegetable oils and filler and garbage. It's not food. That's what you feed to your food. You shouldn't be eating that, and that's what I think is having a big impact on the sperm counts. It's just the diet, because you go a month just eating nothing but beef, then you don't have to worry about your sex drive or your sperm count. It's nuts.
I got Ricky Ricardo sending me $9.99 in super chat, Canadian dollars. That's enough. That's good. Thank you. That's a lot of money. Also, I'm just gonna throw one word out there, okay? And I wanted to know what comes to your mind first. You're ordering a pizza, and they offer you plantaroni. Fake
What?
pepperoni. It's called plantaroni.
Plantaroni?
That's what they call it, plantaroni. I'm on the phone, like, I want a bacon sausage and triple bacon sausage and triple pepperoni pizza. Sir, would you like to try our vegan plantaroni? I'm like, no.
See, what they'll do is they'll push this propaganda that it's good for the environment, it saves the world, and it'll save animals, which is, it's irrefutable. It's been proven completely wrong.
Yes, it has.
They'll push it because they can make money off it. Because, I mean, you know, how much farmland does Gates own? How many shares do they have in these packaged processed food companies where before you can run a cow on a pasture, get it to a slaughterhouse, then take it to a butcher and take it home. And that's all you need to do. Mm-hmm. Where the more processing, the more steps, you know, they can financialize our food in a way. If you think about it, the more garbage that we have. That I think is the biggest risk facing humanity all the time is our foodstuffs being completely turned into this, you know, dystopian processed goop. Because if you go on a vegan diet, and a lot of the issues that they have, and you'll see it all in the Twitter feeds and everything, you'll see them all have mental health issues. They'll be depressed. They'll have, and a lot of it is simply vitamin deficiencies manifest like that. And that worries me more than anything.
I mean,
you know, moving away from that.
Like it's like okay, so this has been an issue. This whole thing has been going on. They tried this back in the 60s with processed with the TV dinners. That was a pilot. That was the 50s and 60s was the whole TV dinner thing to try and get to see if we could get these people to eat this crap, you know? And then people started eating more TV dinners in the 50s and 60s and into the 70s. I call it Frankenstein food. But now, Florian, I don't know if you know, but did you know that back in the late 1800s, in the 1870s, 1860s, did you know that they try to push methane tax on farmers?
I wouldn't be surprised.
They actually tried pulling that in the late 1800s, the methane. And what a lot of these green, whatever, I'm a meatitarian, right? So I eat meat. So they don't know. If I go and tell somebody, do you know there's more trees in the world right now than there was 100 years ago? They look at me like you know that we expanded, I don't know how many tens of thousands of green acreage in the world in the last 10 years alone. But you look at them and tell them that, they look at you like you fell off, like you know what I mean, right?
Well, yeah, people have this fantasy of what the world was like, pushed upon them by the media and people who've got an ideological agenda. They think the forests were all wild and free like a Disney cartoon. If you go back, medieval Europe, the forests were worked hard. They had people there working them, they were harvesting them, the king controlled access to it for hunting. It wasn't some utopia. It's kind of like this perverse evolution of this noble savage idea. Everyone thinks living as a savage, scavenging for food and dying when you're 30 due to malnutrition was a fantastic thing. It just comes back to our education system, mate. People have no idea. It's the same people that are saying trust the science that have never done a chemistry experiment in their whole life. It's just lack of understanding. And it frustrates me, mate.
It does frustrate. I could see it. I could see you're frustrated there. Take a sip there. Take a sip there. I'm going to take a sip here of my lemon water. Comments are going well. Everything's moving nicely tonight. We got Florian Heise here from Heise Says, 2-time world champion here to join us. Thank you. And now you're okay to talk. Are you okay? You don't have to go anywhere, do you?
Yeah, mate. It's Sunday afternound. I'm chilling here.
Okay, good.
What time
I just want to make sure I'm
holding you
back, and you got to go skiing or something, or no, windsurfing or something, or you know what I mean.
Oh no, we took 5 kids to church in the morning, and that's a bit of a mission, getting them all dressed in the car, ready, screaming. So yeah, so now they're playing with themselves. I get the afternoon off.
Good.
So we can have a chat, mate.
Good. I'm happy. Our churches are still closed because of this
really
crazy
What are the numbers in What are the numbers? I'm going to look it up. John Hopkins. What's the numbers now in
I don't even know,
Canada?
man. The media is telling us that this is huge. I call it's H1336-7Y variant that's coming out of Hong Kong, and we're bringing all these people in with money. But we don't close travel from Hong Kong to Canada, but we close travel within Canada between provinces. And they're doing a hard lockdown in Ontario, and they're doing a Victorian style lockdown in Ontario now.
You've got 1.1 million cases. How many deaths do you think you had in all of Canada?
Like this month, this week, or
No, total. I'm looking at the total numbers here.
oh, I don't know, maybe 4,000.
23,000.
Oh,
You had over 1 million recoveries.
so that puts it at what 0.00 like to die from this thing, like 0.00.
Hang on. Which state are you in, mate?
I'm
You're
in British Columbia.
Okay, British Columbia, I'll tell you. Your fatality rate is 1.31% right now. This is according to John Hopkins.
But that's 85 and older, right? Or 80 and older.
That's total. That's total.
Okay.
Most people will recover from it. Most people have come through it. This is the thing. No one ever talks about the recovery rates. The media just goes on about cases, when most people are fine. That's positive news. We need to focus on that. You know, you're not doing too bad there, mate.
No, we're not doing bad at all. But the problem is, I'm driving home and I got the radio on, and a woman today has died of COVID like symptoms. She died of blah blah blah. They go on and on about her life. She was 126 years old, and I'm like, why didn't they say that at the beginning? She was 126 years old. I would have not listened to it.
That's why, mate. That's why they want to make the money. You listen to it. You listen to it because it's the problem. It's the same thing here in Melbourne. They'd be reading through all the people. You know, Dan Andrews there, all the people that died, and they're 85, they're 95, and the biggest thing is the aged care homes when they get in there, and sadly when you get in there, you know that you're obviously on the way out. That's what happens, guy. And honestly, here's the question for you: do you think it could be that as a society now, there's no death positive movement? There's no discussion about death anymore. People are so afraid about it these days, particularly the growing rise of lack of religious belief in our society. Do you think that could be why people are so obsessed and terrified about this? Maybe they're confronting their own mortality for the first time, and they just, you know, they can't weigh it up, and that's why they're overreacting.
Well, here it is. This is what I think about that. And I brought this up on a Mike in the Nights, I don't know, about a year and a half ago, way before COVID. And I said basically that the way the governments get one over you is for the fear of dying. Once you're in the fear or you're in fear to die, the governments have one over you. They have one on you. They got you because now you'll start complying, right? So that's the issue, and I believe I know a lot of people say this, Flo. I know all these tough guys. Yeah, I'm not scared to die, and this and that, and you know, I've made my peace with God in my early 30s, and you know, I'm not scared to die. I really am not, and I already told my family. I told my guys, I am very vocal here on this web. I do get threats from people. And they even know my address. Like, you just come to my store. There's my address right there. I'm not hiding. I've already had several people come visit me today at my shop that were driving through the province. And they said, oh, we got to see Mike and let him know that we watch him and blah, 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 right? And I had a couple from England come and see me today, from Wales, that have been living in Canada. But I'm not afraid. You see, once you're afraid to die, they got you. What do you think?
Yeah, mate, fear. You know, fear. It's interesting. Well, we're starting to see how much people are willing to accept for a taste of normalcy. You know, how much they're willing to comply and willing to put up with. Most people are they just want to get along with their lives. Most people don't want to be politically active. Most people don't care about the government. They just want to live their life, have their family, and get on with it. And that's the problem. People need to start being vocal about what they want, or else it's just going to get steamrolled. The special interests, the more vocal people are going to push their way through. And I think it's fear. I think it's not just fear in the populace. I think it's fear in the bureaucracy that's pushing all this out. That's why they're going so hard. Oh, we need to have this lockdown. And if you dare to even talk about it, you're dogpiled as someone who hates grandmothers or who wants people to die, and they're using all guilt and emotion to get you.
I'm doing my part. I'm not selfish. Join me and get the vaccine. It's like, really? It's like you're gonna go to that. So, this situation is arising more questions than answers we're getting, and it's getting a lot worse for them to cover this up. And I don't know how much percent of the population do you think is actually awake and know what's really happening here?
Well, see, I really don't like the term awake or wake up. I hate it when someone says, when will everyone wake up? Or you've got to wake up, people. I'll see it in the comments, someone writing some stuff. It's because people are busy. Think about it. You got your family, you got your work. You don't give a shit about what's going on there in politics, but you should. I prefer the term politically active, where people are stepping up and taking responsibility for the political climate around them, because that's the future for your children, that's the future for your family. And I'm thinking more and more people are getting active. But if we look at the outcomes for recent elections, let's use that as a barometer here.
Right.
Here in Queensland, we had Labor Party, Liberal Party. Liberal was going to do the exact same thing as Labor did with regards to lockdowns and restricting our freedom. There was no alternative. There was one young guy I had on my channel. He was trying to raise, I think, 500 party memberships so he could start a party then and there to get people to criticize the lockdowns and to fight against it. And he was saying that this is the first time he'd ever actually took an interest in politics. He was just, he was touring up North Queensland. He was doing his own thing. He was making his own money. He was paying his taxes. He didn't care. But it was at this moment that got him active, that got him interested and said, hey, I've got to take part in that. Now, I think we're a long way from the majority of people being active and being aware of, or even taking enough of an interest to step out there and out of their comfort zone and talk about it. I'm hoping it will happen more and more. I would like to see a shift in the Overton window, because Australia, I don't know about Canada. I'm assuming you're the same. Well, you got Trudeau, so I'm guessing you are. We're heading more and more to the left, mate, here. More and more to the left, where even the idea of individual responsibility is hardly ever mentioned. If you criticize someone for not having, emergency funds set aside for a disaster, you're victim blaming, all of this stuff. So I'm hoping we can drag more people away from this dependence on the state, because they'll always let you down every bloody time. So I think we're a long way from more people being politically aware, active, and involved. But I'm seeing this. What do they say? Never waste a good crisis, mate. This is an opportunity for people to actually become active, to step up.
Joseph Stalin said that.
Yeah, that's it. You got to learn from both sides, mate.
Yeah. Do you see? I'm going to ask this. It was a poll I put up, and people. This was a really interesting poll I put up, and the majority of people came back. It was astonishing. I asked people, if my country is becoming more, and then there was fascist, communist, democratic, and the other one was a principality, like a monarchy. And a majority that came back was actually, and I had over 500 votes on that, and it was actually communist was number one, then fascist, and then monarchy was 1%, and democratic society was 0%. So that's 500 people voted on that, which is a good turnout. But do people like the woke crowd, or the people that understand what's happening? What are they doing? Like, a lot of people I know are preaching or trying to wake people up, or and they keep getting shut down. What advice would you give to people to say, look, I'm trying to wake my neighbor up because I really feel for the guy. He works hard. How do I get him, not on board with me? Maybe just to open his mind and look outside the box?
I think the thing is, you don't want to sound like a nutcase.
Right. But you want to save lives.
If you'd spoke a year ago about the Great Reset, people would have thought you're a bloody, placard wearing fruitcake. You're crazy. The world's coming to an end. I would like these things to be discussed by rational people in a rational way. So if you're having a sensible conversation with your neighbor, breadcrumbing them to certain things, but also with your poll there, where you are, most people are thinking it's going more communist. It also, you've got to look at it from the perspective of where you sit in the political spectrum. Now, I would argue, I like the 4-axis compass, where you've got more individual liberty and less individual liberty, more authoritarian government control and less authoritarian government control. So it's not a clear right-left picture, as some people like to put it forward. So you get a lefty who'll be, a rampant government authoritarian because they think the state should take care of each other. They'll probably tick in on that, going, "Oh, well, no, you are against, you expect people to take individual freedoms or have individual responsibility. So you're some right-wing nutter." So some people, their perception of the world is clouded by where they're sitting on the spectrum or where their ideological position sits. And some people aren't actually aware of that. So you'll have crowds of people like in America. You'd have half the population who thought Trump was, a hero doing a good thing. You had other half, and there were intelligent people on both sides. Other half who thought he was the incarnate of good old Adolf there, and the world was coming to an end. And these are, you've got smart people on both sides seeing the same information slightly tweaked in different ways, depending on your news source, and then having a completely different worldview. And that's fundamentally that's the real danger that we've got here. Going back to your question, talking to a neighbor, just do it like you normally would. Have a beer, have a barbecue, discuss these things more widely. Become friends with people.
Right.
I think getting involved at a local level of politics, like the council level, the city-state level, I think that's important as well too, because you'll find that these things permeate through all levels of politics. You'll have everyone is really, upset and passionate about the federal level, and then it comes down to state level, and they'll, as well as that, but then they'll kind of, not very many are involved at the local level. I did a poll, and only 10% of my viewers said they were actually involved at all at the local level. They're more interested in the upper ones, because you'll see the same rhetoric coming through at all levels.
A trickle-down rhetoric.
Yeah, that's it. I'm stealing that one. I like it.
Let me ask you something. Now, this whole vax, no work, they're pushing that hard in England. Like I said, they might want to Anglify things real soon. They're pushing no vax, no job. Dude, this is communist. This is crazy. Like, no vax, no job. Go ahead and unload that. What do you think?
It doesn't make sense for the mortality rate we're seeing. It doesn't make sense. So there's either something else going on, or the potential of this to evolve into something even more dangerous is what's scaring people. That could be the other thing too. I think the comorbidities to this, that if you're even slightly overweight or obese, if you're diabetic or you're pre-diabetic, if you have insulin resistance, that's affecting so many people in the population that we don't even realize. And that's, even skinny people who are fat on the inside and don't realize it either. I think this could have, in some way, it could have a much more dramatic impact if it just, came a little bit more deadly, and then it could snowball. I'm hoping that's what's driving this fear, or it could just be you've got a bunch of bureaucrats and a bunch of politicians that are suffering from mad delusion, that it's no different to any other mass hysteria that you've had in the past. Remember when there was all the people who thought they were, committing all these satanic rituals under these bloody childcare centers? It was all through the media in the 90s. All the parents believed it. All the kids believed it. It was a complete mass hysteria. There was no evidence to it. Do we really think that couldn't be what's pushing a whole lot of people now? You're just constantly bombarded with this fear, and the decision makers are no different to any of us, and they don't want to risk losing their positions of authority or power. So if they start questioning the narrative that's accepted, they might get kicked out now because the masses are hysterical and want to be coddled and protected.
Mm-hmm. Well, thinking of coddled and protected, and you go to church, I go to church. Now, I'm going to throw something out there. I'm going to throw a big curveball out there for you today. I'm going to throw a big curveball out here, because you don't know about this because you're in Australia, but you're not going to believe what I'm going to show you, but I'm just going to get images of it right now. And my friend messaged me and told me that his child, he's in school in, I think it's in somewhere in North Texas, and they reopened a curriculum that they had in North Texas that closed for COVID. And they're reopening it, and they're opening it also in Michigan. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, yeah.
After School Satan Club. I'm not making this up. Here it is, guys. The After School Satan is reopening, and it is everywhere. And my friend told me...
Isn't that hipster atheist trying to be cool?
No, but there's more. There's more. There's temples all over. It started in Michigan, and now they have it in Los Angeles now. And they are pushing this, and they believe that the equality should be there for all. And he messaged me 2 days ago. He's like, Mike, they're telling my son he needs to go to this after-school Satan club. I'm like, why aren't they teaching people the importance of money management, the importance of understanding interest rates and compounded interest rates, revolving debt? Don't get into debt, especially. What is this garbage? You can't make this stuff up.
Oh, mate, it's. I mean, it's America, okay, and I think people will use whatever they can for shock and a platform, and I don't know. I remember I had a bunch of friends that were all, death metal guys at back in the school days, and they had a rock band. They were screaming this stuff out, and they were all like full-on Christians and everything. So, I just think it a bunch of stupidity. His kids should be strong enough to tell him to get stuffed. I'm not dealing with that rubbish. You're going to be faced with garbage like that your whole life, one way or another. So I would argue, I agree with you, we need to be teaching financial literacy, but also resilience for people that when you face these type of things, because this stupidity, this ludicrousness is never going away, as much as we all hate it. But if you get someone resilient and strong that they're confident enough to tell them to go to hell, which they probably want to anyway if they're Satanists, let them do it. Think of it as an opportunity to test your strength.
Florian, imagine we invented a time machine and we took a couple of newspapers of from today's time. Oh. We go back to the year 1875, so pre-automobile, pre-Model T. We go to one of the bigger cities, let's say in Australia somewhere, in Sydney. Sydney, we'll go to Sydney, and we'll start walking around the streets and mulling around and telling people, here's the future. Look, this is happening, that's happening. After School Satan Club is back. We got 5G rolling out. What's 5G? Well, we're going to be following everything you do and blah, blah, blah. I think people would actually, one, they'll arrest us. This is what's going to happen. They'll put us behind bars to investigate us or what we're trying to propagandize to the people. Two, they're going to actually tell us, or they're going to accuse us of being Chinese agents. That's number two. And the reason why is because everything we have on us is made in China. So when they take our clothing and process us, they're going to be like, they're Chinese. Why? Well, everything they're wearing on them is made in China. Right? So that's number two. And then number three, they'll put us in an insane asylum. We'll never see the day of light again.
Yeah, no, I think that'll happen. I think they'll just lock us up straight away. They'll put in the vest and they'll put you in a room. You're just another insane person. Back when they still had healthcare facilities like that. I guarantee you that's what'll happen. Frankly, if you went back to the 80s, they'd do the same thing to you, mate. They'd just think you're some nutcase there. The world's just going so woke, and in some ways, I blame social media. It's magnifying the reach of mentally ill people. Honestly, that's what it's doing. It's giving it more of a, and this is kind of the danger of what information you're consuming. If you're exposing yourself to this information, this is something that we face as a challenge as content creators. People can send you this stuff and you can just you're seeing so much of it and you're seeing this thing here, this thing here, this thing here, that it can in some ways become a little bit overwhelming, or you can go into this doom spiral where it's all coming to an end, everything. But I think you've got to take a step back and have a bit of a rational approach to some of these things too. There's a lot of normal people out there, and if you go and the people you associate with the normal circle, they just dismiss a lot of this garbage that's coming out. A lot of these people. I mean, you see, what was it? One person was in the media recommending children get puberty blockers until they can decide to get their what gender they want to pick. I mean, that's obviously someone. You didn't see that one?
No, elaborate. What?
You're missing out. I mean, that's obviously someone that is either doing it for shock factor or has a mental health issue right there. Because no sane doctor would recommend that.
Could it be revenge? Maybe revenge?
Perhaps. But because it's so outrageous, it gets in the media and we hear about it and it kind of magnifies this one nutcase. to kind of have a global audience. We're talking about it on both sides of the planet now. Where back in the 80s, someone like that would have just been drooling in the corner somewhere. You wouldn't have paid attention to her. So that's the danger I see of the kind of the counter. We've got this fantastic world where we have access to all this information, but you've got to be skeptical about some of it because a lot of it is being pushed for purely financial reasons, and then they magnify it, and then we can overreact to it. I still think, honestly, if we can get more and more people having financial literacy so they can be financially independent of the state, that's going to make a bigger impact than anything else politically. If you've got a whole bunch of people that have their own money, have their own control of their money, that don't need to depend on an emergency handout from the government that can tell them to get stuffed, or that actually start for the first time. You know what they say, everyone's a lefty until they start a job. Right. That actually start paying taxes, start running a business, start employing people. I think that's going to be better for our society in the long run. So that's what I like to see, is people pushing that agenda, and that will free you from control of the state to some regards if you're financially independent, if you can move around, go from one place to another, if you have that level of freedom. And then even if they try and control you and restrict you there, you can at least have enough. If you have enough FU money, you can speak up and not worry about it, not worry about losing your job, not worry about being silenced, because you've got a lot of normal people that wouldn't. I get people talking to me saying, "Oh, I wish I could talk about what you're talking about on YouTube, but I'd never do it because I'd lose my job or people wouldn't talk to me about it." I mean, we're both small business people, so we're kind of in a position where we don't care. Right. If anything, it filters out the clients you don't want to deal with. So that's kind of my take on it. How we can long term, teach the next generation to get away from this burden.
It's a huge burden. Now, speaking of burdens, I need an answer to this, and no one's really giving me a straight answer. Small businesses closing across Australia due to this whatever's happening. Now, here's the issue. We're talking about private sector businesses. Well, I don't care about the public sector. But if you don't have any private sector, mom and pops, take a sip of coffee there. Take a sip of your...
I'm running out, mate.
Okay. If you have... Let me give you an example. If you don't have a mom and pops and you don't have the private sector functioning, who the hell or how the hell are they going to fund the public sector? A lot of people say, "Oh, we just added 40,000 jobs. They're public sector jobs. Nobody cares." How are they going to actually okay, in Australia, is the private sector going to recover? And if it doesn't, how are they going to fund the public sector without collecting taxes from them?
Well, it depends on what sector you're in. Right now, they've juiced the housing market to the hilt. They've just extended home builder, which is you could get, 25 grand if you spend a minimum of $150,000 on a house or an extension to your house. And then they cut it down to 15 grand. And you need to have the contract signed end of the month, and they've now extended the time frame from 6 months. They've pulled it out longer to start your project. You need to have people on the ground to get the government money. You've got to spend your own money before you even get a cent of that government money. So let's say I were to get the $15,000, I'd have to spend $150,000 of my own money, and I'd probably be paying GST. And as a normal citizen, not a business person, I couldn't claim any of that back. That's our goods and services tax, 10% on everything. So they would get it all back anyway. So housing sector is going gangbusters. It's going nuts. There's positivity there in housing and in construction and renovation, which is pretty bad for me because I'm about to do a reno on my job, but that's on my house, but that's different. So you talk to people in housing, they're going flat out. They're going gangbusters. They're busy. So that sector is doing real well. Retail, apparently it's picking up too. I'm seeing some of the unemployment numbers, and that's where they're, because we're in a PC world, all the women are getting employed back again, and they're loving that. So that's a lot of the retail sector coming out. You go to I've been going to the shopping centers, having a look around, because I'm trying to keep an eye on that sector to see if we're seeing a real decline, because that's a lot of mum and dad businesses there, and it's not happening as much. It's more some of the bigger ones that are in trouble, like the chain retail shops. So we're not really seeing a huge hit to that there. What's going to happen is when they have to start paying back their leases, their rent. There's been a bit of a moratorium on the rents there, and the government stepped in and provided some support there. Once that comes back, that we could see some movement happening there. But then, this morning I was talking to an engineer. He was saying, it's a bit quieter than I expected it to be. And he works for large tier 1 companies, so it's still carried over from last year. It depends on what sector you're in. So they're juicing up housing. They're juicing up all these other ones. They're doing well. So if you're in that world, you're thinking it's fantastic. It's great. I'll see people in the comments going, what are you worried about? It's great. I'm busiest I've ever been. I was in that situation back in the 2011 when the mining boom was going at it. Other architects were sacking people, and I was flat out and growing. Now, tourism, that's the one that's copying it, particularly up north in Queensland. You've got the airlines. I've got people in my comments that have been watching the channel for a while. They're, struggling. I have family that work at the airport where they've been on job keeper, which is forlorn, where the government's providing money to the employer to keep them on, and they're just starting to creep back too. So here's the thing. If they can open up the country soon enough to get that tourism coming back and the international students, that's a big part for Australia.
Huge. Oh man, you gotta, yeah.
So then that they might kind of sputter it along. They'll don't worry about the debt. That's future generations' problem. We forget about that. That's what they're hoping. So if they pull the rug out from under it, they may be able to kick it on. But here's the thing. We'll have to see once September. CommBank is going to start foreclosing on houses if people can't pay. Remember, we've been in mortgage holidays, so that would have also decreased the supply of property going on in the market. That's so right. We've got undersupply of housing on there right now. Apartments are going down. They're cheap. You can get a bargain there. But housing, not quite. So we're not going to really see what's happening until the next 6 months. Because insolvencies, personal insolvencies and business administrations, when you bring in another party to manage your business,
right,
sitting about half of where it should be. So even if that ticks up to normal, that's going to start filtering through. And here's one. You'll like this one, mate. We had the trading while insolvent. Do you hear about that, which we had for like half a bloody year or a year, where you could trade while insolvent. And then if you try to chase someone through the Companies Act to get your money back for that invoice, they've got months before they could respond. The whole process was dragged out.
Wow.
So I'm waiting to see if that starts to manifest for businesses. Because that scares me as a business owner, not getting paid. And I'm lucky I've got no expenses. I got software, and back in the day I had staff. Where if you've got stock and someone, you'll probably be the bastard who'll be taking the stock and not paying your supplier. That's how it works, Oh, no, I'll pay you in 6 months' time once I sold it. But, if you're a builder doing that or a subby doing that, getting some tiles, sticking them down, that's the issue, and they're not getting paid. So I'm not sure. I think all the media that we were looking at about predicting a house price crash, I think a lot of that was done on purpose to manipulate our politicians to intervene in the market drastically, particularly from the RBA. There's calls for more and more fiscal stimulus coming out. The RBA wants to try and force the banks to be tougher with handing out money left, right, and center to kind of restrict that and not raise the interest rates, because that, I think, raising the rates even a little bit, even if it doesn't make an impact on your really day-to-day living, psychologically it'll make a difference to the market, because that's what economics is. It's more psychology and bluffing. I mean, that's what the Fed's doing all the time. And if enough people believe it, that's what really matters, isn't it? If enough people think it's all going to be rosy and they keep going, we'll have to see how long it can. So we'll have. I think they're going to open the floodgates here in Australia to bring people back. I think it's a little too late for Australia with that, and I'm going to counter that, and I'll tell you why I think so. Yep. Because Amerifornia's here. Amerifornia, new governance, open borders. It's going to be a dreamland for a lot of students. Oh, the Yanks are gonna suck up everyone. Amerifornia. They've been printing out. Yeah. A week after. The president got selected into office. Let me tell you something. My friend owns a big printing company down in Mississippi. He was telling me they were printing out housing brochures in Mandarin and shipping them off and doing all kinds of stuff in Mandarin, all Mandarin, to sell properties down there. And I think Australia will lose to America. That's why Canada's border is close to America. You've got to remember, we don't have the build large mansions movement as much as the Americans have. Americans have got all the riots and all of that. going on as well.
Yeah, but a lot of
Yeah,
that again is media too. Because I have friends. I talked to my friends the other day in Fort Lauderdale. I go, "How's this like?" Mike, it's business as usual. Where everyone's doing their things. They focus on 3 square blocks in a major city, 2 square blocks here. You know, there's it's not what. Obviously, the media is always going to propagandize and amplify the situation more to get their agenda across. That's what it was, right? Now, they basically, I have a friend, a good friend of mine, and he has a leasing company where he leases out airplanes. And if you need an airplane, he could actually take it to where you are, if you want an airplane for whatever, and have a pilot for you and everything. He told me he was willing to bet $10,000 for every vote that Biden had over 9 million. For every vote that Biden had over 9 million, he was willing to donate $10,000 to charity. He wanted to go on major publications like CNN and says, I'm going to put this out there. I am willing to, if we could actually go into this and look into this a bit deeper, I am willing to pay $10,000 for every vote over 9 million for Joe. And no one's, they're like, well, I put my money where my mouth is. And he's complete silence from the media.
Oh, I think they're all exhausted over it, mate.
I think, yeah.
Sleepy Biden's in. You're going to get what is it? Kamala?
Yeah.
Coming in next. Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting take. That you're thinking that we'll be fighting for international student market.
Well, we've been fighting for foreign investors.
Yeah.
We've been fighting for foreign investors.
You're right. I mean, that's it. We're all allies, but we're also competing as well. But you know what the Aussies will do? They'll sweeten the pot. Come over, get a free house. They'll find a way to do it, mate. They'll find a way.
They'll find.
But you get how the real end game is how easy is it to get citizenship? That's the thing.
There's the article I bring up all the time. I could bring it up again. It's Canada wants more Chinese from 2016. We've upped our visa intake to 500,000 per year. And the
500,000.
The article states, I'm going to have to bring this up because people they're going to say I'm just, and it's our mainstream media that's actually publicizing this. So it's not, I'm not making this up. They're going to probably end up taking this article because they bring it up so many times. So here it is right here. Here's the article, full frontal right here. So this is an important article that I've brought up several times. Canada wants more Chinese students, workers, and tourists. Now, 500,000 per year, and they're opening more to bring in to compete for Canada to compete for Chinese workers, students, and lucrative tourist business. We open more and more visa offices and processing offices in Shanghai and Xinjiang, all these other different provinces in China than any other Western country has. Canada does not report its immigration stats for Chinese investors do not count as immigrants on our immigration. If you look at our immigration stats,
yep,
there's you don't see Chinese on there, but you walk outside your door, it's a completely different story. So they're not claiming people as like refugees and people like immigration stats from different levels from different countries. You bring in $5 million, you're not an immigrant, you're an investor, right? And that doesn't. So Canada, I think, is led the way the hardest, and Canada worked so hard to get the Hong Kong citizens into Canada after this whole clutches of China and this evil China, when we're turning into China here, and now Canada, this is just me. Is Australia in the same boat where Canada, to me, in my opinion, is an autonomous region of China? Go ahead.
If you're going to compare between, Hong Kong Chinese and mainland Chinese, they're very distinct cultures.
I totally understand that.
The language is different, and you'd actually, I would imagine, the Hong Kongers I know would probably be more compatible in a Commonwealth country than going over to mainland China. There's a difference there.
Right.
It's kind of sad in a way that Hong Kong's never going to be the same. Have you been there? It's a beautiful city. It's just insane.
Yes, I've only been to the only part of former China I've been to was Taiwan. That's the closest I've gotten was Taiwan. I've been to Taiwan thrice, and I've never been to mainland China. No. It's
here in Australia, when we've got people coming in from all over the world. China's one segment. They've been here for a long time. I mean, I live in the 100-year-old Chinese part of Brisbane.
Right.
That's the old community here. And the thing is, if if they turn the tap on, the difference is now from previous immigration was there was a bit slower, and now we have all industries that are just completely dependent on it. You've got all of your international, all of our universities dependent on these international students.
That's correct. And America wants that too. America is raising tuition at Harvard, and they're getting people in, and they're like, okay, we could sweeten the pot. Can you do more? They're having backdoor. Listen to this. I know someone that worked in Yale. I can't really tell what his position, because there's only select people working in this position, so it's going to give him away. But he told me that they're having backroom bidding war deals on who could pay the most to get into Yale and Harvard.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, that's just, come on, that's what you're going to do. They're buying the brand. They're buying the brand, and you're going to have, because that's not just the university. Sure, the universities are dependent on that money, and that creates a conflict of interest for universities. Here we've had at University of Queensland, we had one student who got into trouble because he was critical of China, and he was organizing protests against it. And then you had conflict with the pro-Chinese students, because the risk is, if they come over here, you'd hope that these students would get exposed to Western ideals and to Western philosophy and Western thinking,
right?
And to kind of undo the damage that we've done by giving them communism, and that's my Germanic heritage. We've got some shame there, but still, you'd hope they'd be exposed to that, and then that would eventually, generation after generation, cause a cultural change there. But you've got other people there watching them, spying on them, reporting back, telling them how they need to behave. So it's kind of not working as well as we would have hoped. But you also have the universities that are compromised. They punished this kid for organizing these events from an ideological perspective. But then you've got our property industry as well. They're calling for increases in immigration. We've got about 40,000 Australians now that can't get in the country. And there was the universities bringing plane loads of international students to quarantine and then go to study because they needed to bring them back to.
Well,
understandably,
they needed the income. They couldn't. Yeah, they need the money.
And that's the quality of our uni education here is going down in the gutter. People don't realize how much worse it's gotten over the time. I feel sorry for these international students. I had friends who were coming over from Asia, paying a shitload, pardon my language, to study here, 40, 50 grand a year for a course, and it was not worth the money. Not at all. So some of them do it so they can settle here, so they can get out of their country, come here and become Australians, which I appreciate, I understand. But that's the thing. If you're saying we're now going to compete with America, because I was always told we're the poor man's United States when it came to international students, the ones that couldn't make it in America will make it here. If you're predicting that they'll try and open the floodgates there to bring people in,
they have already.
But isn't Biden closing the borders and his child cages? Children border hotels are like at 900% capacity.
Oh, you're talking about those cages that were put there during the Obama administration?
Yeah.
And they were publicized during the Trump administration for putting there. Yes.
Trump was blamed for. Yeah, those ones.
Yeah. And that cold freeze across Texas, where the Obama administration the governments were going to sue the coal companies, the coal producing power plants, if they produced too much energy than they needed, they would get sued carbon credits. Yeah, those guys, and they get blamed for the outages after because they don't want to get sued for producing too much. Yeah, there's all this Mickey Mouse that's going on, but they're gonna put their America. My friend's telling me they're making brochures and everything. They're pushing hard for money from. They're pushing Hong Kong hard to get more. They opened up 2 more visa processing offices in Hong Kong for the United States, and they're working really hard to get more in. Now, guys, before we continue, I want to make something very clear, and I've said it on other shows. I have no problem with Chinese people. It's the whole oppression, communism. And this whole, we don't want to become like that. We want to be free. We want to be able to do. I have no problem. My ex, let's go into relationships. My ex-girlfriend was Chinese. The one before was Chinese, but not Canadianized. Very, very cultural Chinese girls. My wife's now Filipina. I just want people to know I'm not against the Chinese. If it was the Russians, it's the Russians. It's not the Iranians. It's not the Icelandic. It's not the Australians. It's the Chinese. And we got to figure out what is happening. What are they bringing? what our governments are planning, or what's the deal they're getting, because there's always two sides to a deal. And I think we're getting burned big time. We have a lot of companies, you could look them up online. 7-year, our biggest coal mine in Canada, 7 years now, no Canadian hires. Right? Lots of this stuff is happening, and what's happening is I think this whole money thing we're chasing after, and real estate and FOMO, all this Mickey Mousing, all this is deteriorating the fabric of what Canada used to be. Florian, I just want to say something quick about America. I lived in America, and I know. And let me tell you something. What I realized when I lived in America. I was in Fort Lauderdale, and I had my own shop there, a transmission shop. That was what I specialized in, was rebuilding transmissions for cars. And I had an Arab fella come in and talk to me for a little bit. And then I asked him, I go, "Where you from, man?" He's like, "I'm an American." I'm like, "Okay, but you have an accent. I'm just wondering." "Oh, I'm from Saudi Arabia." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Okay." So every time I would meet somebody and have an accent, somebody from, let's say, Honduras or something, and I speak Spanish, right? And I say, "Where you from?" He's like, "Well, I'm an American." I'm like, "Oh, well, you speak perfect Spanish. Like, I speak perfect Spanish too." And I'm like, "You speak perfect Spanish?" He's like, "Oh, no, I was born in Honduras, but I moved here when I was 16, but I'm an American." What I realized living in America is that everybody is American. But in Canada, I'm a Portuguese. Buddy is I am a Portuguese, and Buddy is Arab, and Buddy is Hindu. The other Buddy, but nobody is Canadian. It's okay. We're Canadian. We're here, but nobody's taking in. Is that like that in Australia? Like,
What is that? When did you live in the States, mate? How long ago?
2003, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Is that a Canadian American thing, or is that just the new woke world where people are, you've got this push to identify with your identity group. You've got the left with all the victim mentality, and then you've got this group here. It's this perverse. We're returning to this identitarian world now, where every little bloody group is in their own little box, and you've got these advocates pushing for special purpose for this group, or this group has been victimized, so we need to implement these discriminatory policies in businesses and in politics, or they're talking about having gender quotas here in our Conservative Party in Australia, all this type of stuff. I would say it's more just a shift to a more identitarian world by these leftist progressives who are trying to do good in their mind, but are going to create more racial division, more religious division, and more community division than has been in the past. We were going, down a whole world where everyone's American. My father immigrated here from Germany. He gave up his German citizenship. He became an Australian. He was proudly holding his card that he became an Aussie.
Right.
He learned English on the boat coming over here. He didn't speak a word of it. And now it seems to be where everyone wants to identify with their own little special group. And I'm kind of worried that that's just going to grow more and more and more. And then you'll have tribalism. And then you have nations that disintegrate, like in Yugoslavia, where they fall apart. And then you've got the tribal conflicts between the different groups. And that's the danger, I'd say, of a multicultural society, where rather than having a cohesive culture that you can all be proud of, that you can all be happy to be a part of, people start identifying with their own tribe or their own group and kind of aren't proud of it. And that, honestly, that comes back to housing, mate. If you can't, here in Australia, if you can't afford a house, if you can't afford a good job, if you have to work yourself to death just to get a shitbox somewhere, are people going to be proud of being in the country? Would you fight for it? Would you die for it? Would you be happy for it? Would you want your children to be part of it? Or are you going to feel isolated? Are you going to step away? And then you get people segregating to these different groups. Then the danger of radicalization comes in, and then you've got people committing, to despicable acts of violence or terrorism in some name or another, and it just snowballs from there. So that's, I don't know if it's an American or a Canadian thing. I'm thinking it's more a time thing, because it seems to be happening more and more in different parts of the world.
Because in Canada, even when I was in grade school, everybody would have the Portuguese group, we'd have the Italian group, everybody would be separated, and we'd always hang out in our little. And me growing up in Canada, I was always a Portuguese, and I was always like that's what I was. That's my culture. That's how I was raised. I'm a Catholic. I'm this. I'm that. I speak Portuguese to my kids, and I speak Portuguese to my kids not because I don't want them to learn English. It's because there's like 9 or 10 countries that speak Portuguese, and if there was governments got off their butts and actually started producing a proper economy, they could go to Brazil and live a good life. You know what I'm trying to say, right? But if they stop being corrupt and actually start moving forward, they could say, I'm moving to Brazil, I speak Portuguese, right? But unfortunately, Canada's always been like that. But when I went to America, everybody's American. And my Jamaican friend, one of my best friends, Tony, Jamaican, living in I'm like, but dude, you're Jamaican. He's like, no, I'm an American. I'm like, wow, because the Jamaicans in Toronto would say they're Jamaicans. They wouldn't say they're Canadian. And that's is that like that in Australia? Is everybody? I know your dad's time was different, but
I'm trying to think back. I'm thinking back to my uni days. Yeah, people were a bit cliquey, but you always have that. You've got people that are cliquey and in groups, and I think it's getting worse actually now. The more just in current day Australia, you've got this whole. I mean, in the media all the time, apparently Australians were all a bunch of racist rednecks, if you believe anything the media says. But you talk to normal people and neighbors in the street. Yeah. I mean, you'll always have that. You've got entire suburbs where their entire communities just live there, and people don't integrate.
Yeah.
This has happened for all time. You've got Maruka in Brisbane, where there's a large African population that are there. You've got, I'm in the Chinese quarter of the city here, in this part of Brisbane. And you've got the oldest mosque in the city for 100 years up the road. You'll always have people in these different groups. But if, sure, you've got your ethnic background, but if you still proudly identify as Australian before, as that, I'm Australian before anything else,
right?
That creates a cohesive society. You can have a multi-ethnic country, but with a monoculture, because all the cultures eventually will merge together, and you get some mishmash of everything. Hopefully, you get the best of all of them come together, and something new will come out. If that comes down to free speech.
Right.
If you can't openly criticize someone for another part of a culture that you find abhorrent, and they try to protect it, and you got a lot of leftists that are just so super sensitive on behalf of others for this stuff, then that really hampers the ability for the cultures to merge, evolve, and grow over time. Because nothing is set in stone. We're all going to change. Our children will change. We'll change. It'll go down the generations. And that's where I think the people are trying to. You'll see it with indigenous populations, where they try and keep them isolated and it's primitive a society, and any criticisms of that way of living is just come down really hard that you're a racist or that you're critical.
Yeah,
even when
the
you
R
can have
word.
a solid point.
Well, I would be more offended if someone called me a toaster, right? Because racist has lost all its value. Someone says, "Oh, you're a racist." I'm like, "So what? Everybody's a racist. Like, everybody is a racist now. You want to go against something, or you want to go against the status quo, you're a racist." And then what was the other one that was racist? And there was bigot. There was all kinds of words they made up for people on the job. Like, you don't want to follow us, then you're a racist. It's like, I just don't want to take this jab. It's only been tested for 6 months, and there's no clinical real testing on it. And, all the lab rats died that took it. So I don't think I want to take this jab. Well, you're a racist then. It's like, so what? Call me a toaster, I'll be upset,
Yeah, no. It has lost its meaning, and it is the default. But a lot of normal people are terrified of it. And that's where you'll see people will apologize in the media. What do we have? I think we had something else, something stupid. Boomerang chicken. So chicken wings were called boomerangs. I've never heard of it, but apparently at Woolworths they called it boomerang chicken. Supermarket. Some idiot on Twitter complained because boomerangs are what the Aboriginals throw.
Sure. And
then they got it banned. The company apologized for calling these things boomerang chicken wings, and this is what it's called in the industry. It's what it's called. So this is the danger of where we're becoming so sensitive to this crap, where people can't even have normal conversations. You talk to someone normally, they don't give a damn about this stuff. Normal people having a conversation, and then you make friends, you develop relationships. They're not hypersensitive. You get all these freaks that are so bloody hypersensitive. They think they're actually doing something by engaging in Twitter and all this stuff, and it just it gets exhausting. It's frustrating, and I think it's going to cause damage to the culture in the long term.
We're getting breaking news in the comments that cryptocurrency is crashing. So pull up your
that happens all the time, mate.
Well, it's actually pretty popular in the
it's down 12%. Come on, you Bitcoin noobs. If you think 12% in one day is a lot, you got to wait.
Yeah.
Come on.
All right. Thanks for clearing that up for us there. Yeah, 12% isn't too much. Message us when it gets 40%, then maybe we'll. Okay. Now this is a question I want to ask. This is important, so I'm going to bring this up so people could see it, so they know we're not lying. Okay, or I'm not trying to make this up. And this is an opinion piece, but it's got graphs and stats to prove it.
Ooh,
so
I like graphs.
Here we go. Are you ready?
Yep. Yeah. Hang on.
This is my most popular one I've brought up several times. Now, I'm going to ask if it's the same with Australia. Canada would be in a recession without money laundering. So we had a money laundering task force.
Yeah.
And
I think this is one of the first videos of yours I saw. Are you talking about the money laundering over in Canada there?
Right.
Because people have mentioned that here in Australia, and I thought that was quite interesting that you're bringing it to the head. I mean, is that? I'm delaying because I can't see the image. There we go. Canada would be in a recession without money laundering. Is that a big thing over there?
It's huge.
People mention that.
We had a money laundering task force that went into place, and we only got from 2011 to 2015, and they've caught a fraction of the money laundering. It's $200 billion, and this excludes reinvestment, typical in the layering and integration of process of money laundering. So the money was actually just dropped into the housing market, and it wasn't put through the infrastructure and pay tax on. So the problem with this is huge because we only got a few years, and one name was mentioned in the money laundering investigation, and the Liberal government shut it right down in a heartbeat because they mentioned someone's name that was involved, and they're not allowed to further any more of the money laundering investigation.
Is Liberal in Canada, is that like the Liberals here in Australia, the conservative side of
No,
Parliament?
Liberal is more of like socialist, fascist.
The lefties,
yeah,
the Democrats.
Very socialist, fascist. They're very, they believe in, giving out handouts and, making everybody happy and, and if you don't follow what they say and blah, 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 that kind of thing. Now, my question to you, Florian, would Australia be in a recession today if it wasn't for money laundering?
Oh, would we? Well, we're out of the recession, mate. We're all good. Haven't you
yeah!
read the paper? It's fantastic. It's fantastic. I think the question is, would the housing be affordable if it wasn't for the money laundering? That's the question I'll put to you.
Okay.
Yes,
because money. Yes.
I mean that's the bubble in a lot of our housing market, because even doesn't have to be that many. It's just the last property that's sold in your street that affects all the prices. The last property that bought affects all the streets. So the foreign money coming in, if it's laundered or not, is going to have an impact on that sector. That's money, an increase in money supply, because it's money that's coming in out of the system. They're borrowing it and they're pumping it up. So would we be in recession? Oh, we probably should have been in recession for a while. We've had immigration pumping up our GDP because our GDP growth has been going down. Mm-hmm. But we're also really lucky because we're the world's quarry, or we're China's quarry. So we've got all of that, and our tourism and our education.
Hold on. You're sanctioned. They're sanctioning you to death.
No. They're only sanctioning what a few beef, a few abattoirs, which are actually Chinese owned. So it's pretty funny. A few other things. Iron ore hasn't been sanctioned, and I think coal is flowing again, or we've found other suppliers for it. So it's again, I think a lot of it's posturing. A lot of it's posturing to try and get things happening. We'll see what happens. Because, I mean, it looks like they're doing the same thing, mate. They're just pumping. They're starting to increase their spending there, and that might drag Australia along. Look at iron ore, over $170.
I saw that the other day. It's like...
Yeah, I bet you wish we had bought some futures, and that one is 50. But, so, I mean, that definitely it's pumped up the housing market. I haven't looked into it as great a detail that you've had. I've heard people mention it about money laundering, that it's used to launder money in Australia. Because a lot of people, we had this push for a cash ban here in Australia. We had that about a year ago, where people
$10,000, right?
Yep, yeah. You spend $10,000 cash, you could go to jail. They were never going to police it. It was just because we were compliant. That's what they were saying in the Senate hearings. But they're talking about that, and others are saying, well, look at property. It's where much more money is laundered through that. So It's definitely had an impact on property. That's for sure. We can see that, and it's starting to peter off. Would we have been in a recession without it? I don't know. I don't know if it's had that much of an impact. A big portion of our growth, say a quarter of the growth, came from Sydney, and a lot of that was in apartments. So we could have.
Mm-hmm.
We could have had really crappy growth.
Well, here it is. For me, this is just my opinion. I think if there wasn't so much money laundering and Canada was fair with immigration. See, what happened with Canada was in 1993, we closed immigration to Europe in 93. And what was bizarre about that is that's when Canada started to like slowly decline. And now we're at a point right now where we're no longer using wages to tie to housing prices. If housing was tied to upper average wage earners, we wouldn't have this problem. Right now, I told you about a house that sold in Scarborough, Ontario. 0 bedroom, 0 bath, $1,050,000. And there's not a lot of land.
That's not a house. That has to be a garage somewhere or a shed. Come on. That's not a house. You can't call that a house. 0 bed, 0 bath is not a house, mate. That's a shed on a block, okay? Is there an underground marijuana bunker?
There's nothing. It's just like it's like a little house, and it's got.
Don't you all smoke pot over there? That's probably what it is.
But you know what I'm saying, right? So we got to a point where wages are not tied to. Wages are not tied to housing prices. Now, America, there's a lot of states that are still 4.5 times your annual wage. So you could go to Oklahoma and you could still buy a 4-bedroom with a pool for $130,000, right? You could still go to good parts of Florida and still pick up something for under $100,000, right? The problem is now, since Biden, the president-elect, came into power, you're seeing Amerifornia full blast. Now, Amerifornia means America will become California. High unemployment rates, homelessness. Heise, how many people do you think in L.A. County on a map is this big? L.A. County, so tiny in the California map. How many homeless people do you think are living in L.A. County right now?
Oh, I don't know, man. 100,000?
61,000.
Oh, well, there you go. How much shit's on the street?
Oh, you have no idea. That's L.A. County. That's not Alameda County. That's not Orange County. That's just L.A. County. And there was this big discussion on the news where in San Francisco they had 23,000 homeless, and they're saying, well, in the San Francisco Reporter was saying, well, we only got 23,000 in San Francisco, so we're doing better. It's like, what are you talking about? You're comparing who has more homeless and not. It's like it's falling apart. So Amerifornia will sweep America. You're gonna see places like you're gonna Baltimore. You're gonna see parts of Texas. Texas right now is in bidding wars. I made a video the day of the new president-elect that American housing prices are going to go up 40% to 100%. And everyone laughed at me, made fun of me, and I'm unsubbing your channel. Now you got bidding wars in places of America that never heard of bidding wars. And people are being bought out of North Texas, West Texas. They're being bought out of parts of Florida. And they're seeing these tour buses of people coming in and buying up properties and leaving them empty. And I've had people call in from Florida, Texas, North Carolina, what was that other place? Tennessee, telling me, Mike, what the heck is going on? It's happening. And that's what I'm afraid of. And that's why Australia may lose, Canada may lose, the UK may lose, and New Zealand may lose, because they're going to lose that lifeline, that life support from China. It's going to go to America.
Do you have a big disparity in wages over there in Canada? Like here in Australia, you've got people in a retail job earning maybe, if they're lucky, $1,100 a week. But then you got someone out on a mine earning $2,700 a week, good money, or someone in a high-end IT earning $250,000 a year. So there's this big disparity in people across the country. It's growing more and more. Is that the same thing happening in Canada over there? Because you've got the average wage, which is kind of meaningless, when you've got some people that are just right up there, and then others that are just struggling to scrape by.
Well, in Canada, retail, the average retailer makes about $500-600 a week, and the average home right now in three of our major cities, you have to save. They did a whole graph on this too. 21 years in Toronto to save up for average wage earners to put a down payment on a home, and 19 years to save up to put a down payment in Vancouver. And we're not like America, unfortunately, where in Texas, they have more major cities in Texas than Australia and Canada combined. So if you don't like living in Temple, you'll move to Dallas. I don't like Dallas. I'm going to move to Houston. I don't like this. We don't have that in Canada. So we have very limited cities to live in. And from the limited cities we have to live in, we don't make nearly enough to... So now, I know one guy that emailed me last week that told me that there's 11 people living in a one-bedroom because that's the only way they can afford to live in Toronto. So that's how bad it's gotten.
When you're saying it takes this many years, is that from one wage earner or from a family? Because here's the thing we've got to remember too.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, one person could support a family, and you could get a house and get a holiday. But now, both people have to work, both people have to keep the money coming in. So it's kind of you're getting the same house, but you're both working for it. So you've got less quality of life. You can't have someone raising your own kids. You've got to put them up in state bloody childcare. I don't know how it is over in Canada, but here it's painful having a look in them. So our quality of life is going down. Even just a generation ago, I was brought up. My mother was at home for most of my childhood, for at least the beginning of it. So I had a home life here. These days, if you do that, it's really rare in Australia. It's bloody hard to do because you both have to work just to get in, just to get ahead.
Well,
so you find that.
Well, back in the day, but you'd work the one job, and the mother would be the homemaker, take care of the family, and do her bit and stuff. But now it's that's gone. It's no longer a lot of it has to do with the whole feminist movement too. I think took things way overboard that shouldn't be, you know what I mean, right? It's just like they've created divide in the household is what they did. They've created divides in the household and they're coming for us and they're taking our kids and they're doing all kinds of Mickey Mousing with this after school Satan crap and all this other stuff. So we got somebody, hold on, Moonlight in the comments says LA poop manager made $451,000 last year. Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
Oh.
So, guys, start rolling in your comments now, please. We got Heise here. Heise says right now in the comment live, start rolling out your comments that you want to ask him or anything you need. We'd like to know or have a question about anything. What's your stance on Bitcoin?
With crypto, I was playing around with it back in the last hype, and so when I used to have an office. I had at that point 4 staff. So then I scaled back the business. So I had all the computers mining crypto. One of my staff members, he photographed and said, I've been replaced by crypto mining as he left to another job. But I still talk to him. It's all good. So I was excited. I thought this was fantastic. I really love the idea of crypto as kind of like an unregulated global stock exchange.
Right. No middleman.
But now I mined it, then I invested in a few ICOs. One I was 100 up, made really good, and then of course I pissed it all away on the next one. That's how it happens. It's really good for learning how to trade and how to make mistakes because it's so fast. You buy, sell. With crypto, I see it as another currency, so I look at ways that I can earn it. So that's where I've got my library channel where I get a little bit of crypto all the time. And my big thing this year is I'm going down the whole really boring dividend investing. I want to build a stack of boring companies that aren't exciting, so that I think they're good value, and try and get some dividends. So just take all this little pocket money, this little crypto I'm earning here and there, and I'm putting it into dividend shares. But what frustrates me is just the cost of moving stuff around. A little bit of Ethereum here, you have to pay a lot. A little bit, you're moving Bitcoin around, unless you're moving a big chunk. For little day-to-day transactions, for like, $5 on a coffee or a meal, it's not usable. It's just not usable as that. I think there's a lot of, there's a bubble. I mean, look at Dogecoin or Dogcoin, whatever you call it. I mean, that's just insane. It is a complete meme stock that's just gone up to the moon. And I mean, if you've made good money on it, good work, guys. Milk it, take it out. But long term, I'm worried. I think we're seeing a bubble here in it. I'm with my risk profile. I'm really boring right now. I'm boring.
Oh, really?
dividend stocks. I'm heavy in cash right now because we're about to do I'm turning my 4-bedroom house into a 9-bedroom house. So that's why I'm sitting on a bit of cash now, because I've got to be doing that. And then I'll just be going, dividends and boring things. So, I use crypto like nearly every day. I get some of it, move it around. What frustrates me is the slow speed, the cost of it, the fact that there's so many ICOs that went absolutely nowhere, that were complete cons and scams. And you've got so many people that are jumping into it that are getting conned. A video I did a couple of years ago was on a crypto scam called Cloud Token Wallet.
Yeah.
Okay. And what you do is you put your crypto in there and they'd pay you interest using their AI trading bots. So if you've been around crypto anytime, you know that this is a typical scam. I found out that they'd used an Australian security investment corporation, so an Australian registered company, to give themselves legitimacy.
Ooh.
And so I found out who the company was, where it was registered. I did a video on it, and I said, look, this is when the website was registered. A year before the company was registered. That's not how you do things in business. The company is in Launceston. It's a city without an international airport at the bottom of the world in Tasmania. You don't start up an international crypto business at a domestic house in Launceston if all your other people work in Malaysia. So I did a video going through all of this. And you know what I got? I got a cease and desist letter from a lawyer in Melbourne going me for putting that up, saying they were going to sue me. I should be going to court, so should Google. And what really pissed me off about that was in that email from that lawyer was saying, be wary of scams. So they were there defending a scammer because now it's all fallen apart. All these people have lost their money, and they were warning their clients about this stuff. So that's the other thing I'm worried about with crypto, with people going in there and getting, it's unregulated. So it's an unregulated market. You're not going to have the same protection as you will have in a stock exchange or anything else. Bitcoin, I mean, it's people are buying it on exchanges and they're thinking an exchange is a wallet. So they don't know what they're doing there either. Mm-hmm. So it's you got to really get into it. It's not my risk profile isn't for it, so I'm not jumping in at it. What about you, mate? Come on.
I'm severely high risk. Stuff. I got all kinds of Mickey Mouse stuff. I did a video back when I bought a bunch of airline stocks last summer, and everyone was like, why are you buying airline stock? I bought a ton of Air Canada, American Airlines. I dumped everything into airline stock. I even made the video that day. Oh, I'm making it. This is it. I did it. And boom, all the airline stock doubled, and within 2-3 months, everything doubled and almost tripled in some of the stock. So I did well with that. And then I bought a bunch of like Mickey Mouse companies. Some of them paid off really well, like that Tilray marijuana stock, a couple of other stocks I picked up. And then we were talking about on the show live, and, we had people call in and stuff like that. What happened to your drink? Are you done?
I'm empty. I've run out. Hang on. I'll see. Rachel, if you're watching, can you bring me a coffee? We'll see. Hang on. Just
text her to say, hey, Rachel, I need... black coffee. You don't have to add anything to it.
I'll call her, mate. Hang on, we'll see. I've been watching a lot of Peter Lynch lectures and videos about investing, and he's going into just how he finds the good stocks, and I think that's quite encouraging to see his style and his approach. But when you're listening to his stuff and then seeing all the craziness happening in the market, it's insane.
Well, logic, you could throw logic out the window. You could throw everything we learned in business or everything we learned in school is not applying to anything that's happening now, right? We had Peter Leeds on last week, the penny stock king, and he wrote Penny Stock Investing for Dummies 1 and 2, and he told me that all the logic and everything we used or what we learned or what made sense is you could throw that right out the window because none of it is applying anymore.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's the concerning thing. So, I mean, the market's going crazy. It could be good opportunities there, but you could also get burned.
Yeah, you
as
can
well.
Get shafted big time.
I mean, yeah. So we'll have to see what happens with. I don't know. You reckon Bitcoin could hit back down to 3,000 or even crash even lower, but because you've got these institutional investors behind it. So are they going to be pumping it up to keep it from crashing down?
You know
or
what?
Not? There's the question.
You know what? I'm gonna say crypto's gonna hold off for a bit longer, and I'll tell you why. Because they're moving mass amounts of wealth from Hong Kong, and a lot of it's been moved out in millions and billions in quantities through crypto. A lot of it. It's the number one money laundering tool out there because there's no middleman, right? But the problem is this: the second that money hits an account, the second that money hits a credit card, the second that money hits something, it's going to be traced somewhere. And right now in India, they're outlawing crypto. They're taxing people on trades. They're doing all this stuff, and they're putting all this stuff in place because they want to abolish the black market. The black market will never cease to exist. The black market will always exist. But the problem is the people that used to make that money or are not making it no more because now they're buying stuff on what was that website? The Silk Road? What was that website called where you could buy cocaine and they mail it to you? Silk Road or that?
I think so.
Yeah, where you could buy with crypto and you had to use crypto so it's completely anonymous.
Like I drove a guy. I gave an Uber lift once, and this was back when crypto was going crazy. And he said, "Yeah, I bought some pot for 25 Bitcoin." And that was when it was $20,000. So he bought it years ago, of course. Oh shit, that was funny. I go, mate, that you probably really enjoyed that high because that was the most expensive one you ever smoked.
Wow. But no, I think crypto could go. I could see crypto hitting 100 large, easy. And you know why? Again, it's the number one money, especially with this world heading into this spiral of the chaos that we're headed towards. This this abyss that we're going into right now. We can't trust the media. We can't trust governments. Homelessness on the rise. Opioid crisis. China admitting that they have factories that produce fentanyl and opioids, and they're feeding it to the people on the streets. Like, do you guys have a major opioid fentanyl crisis in Australia? Because in Canada, it's wiping out our youth.
We got a big meth problem everywhere out in the country. Last I've spoken to it, I actually was driving around a senior police officer here in Australia, and they were telling me, it's everywhere. There's a big problem with it here. I haven't heard as much about fentanyl, but I really haven't been tracking it that much, honestly, as in these states. But I know it's a big problem over there.
Lost Together Forever is saying once the border opens up with the United States again, the drug trade will flourish and Bitcoin will jump again.
My concern with all the crypto is the CBDC, central bank digital currencies. That's what I'm really worried that the level of control that could have. Think about it. Each individual economic dollar or unit that the central bank can control, manipulate, adjust. They would love that. The monetarists, the theorists who can manage the economy. That's what I'm scared about. That this is just paving the way for the adoption of these type of things, and then Turkey's made crypto illegal just recently, and then they'll start putting the ban hammer on Bitcoin, and it'll only be used by the fringe elements because a lot of people will just happily go around with it. Why would I want Bitcoin when I can use my central bank one? It's guaranteed by the Reserve Bank. I'll use that. Oh, wait a minute. Why can't I spend my money? Oh, I haven't got enough social credit score points. Oh, I said something wrong. I watched Mike in the Night. What? I can't eat for 3 days. That's it.
That's the problem. They could cut you off. That's the problem. They could cut you off anytime. They could say, he's watching Scarface again? Well, he bought this video game? No, you're not gonna. We're gonna cut your money, or you're rationed to this much food a week.
Yeah, I mean that's the dystopian future, and hopefully it's just a bit of hyperbolic fear. But it is something that needs to be at least discussed, and people need to be aware there's the risk. I mean, right now there's people getting debanked. They're getting removed off platforms, or they're not even allowed to have a bank account. Certain banks are here in Australia removing people for their political opinions.
What? In the banking sector? They don't want their money?
Yeah, it's funny that. Well, money's cheap. They don't need it. They don't need your pissy little money. They get it from the bank.
Oh, man. I know in China that you can't ride trains. You can't do this. Like, one guy was caught farting in public, and he got penalized for that, and he couldn't get on any flights for 2 years. So like I'm saying, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like we're in a really precarious. Okay, now let's talk about this, okay? Because we've been talking for a good while now. Now I want to talk about the reins of power being handed over to China. America loses its supremacy. The petrodollar falls apart. China now takes the reins. Now China wants supremacy over COVID passports for the world. China wants this. China wants that. China wants all these like weird things that you would never imagine in their control for the world. If we become the world dominant, then we want to do this and we want to do it this way. We want to do that way. What's going to happen with this transition? If this transition is going to happen in our lifetime, China will take the reins. And that goes back to the first question. Are we going to see hot war? Or are they going to let China take it and fall apart? Or are they going to let China take it and run with it? Tell us, what's going to happen with this transfer of power? Well, this is massive!
Are we seeing the decline of America as the peak ruling power of the world? Is this the end of the United States? I mean, how long does an empire last? 500 years? That's the average? A bit less? Is their empire coming to an end now? And are we seeing once again the rise of the Oriental Empire coming back up?
Right.
So that, and then often if there's the threat of a hot war when you have a shift in power dynamics from one power to another coming up. There's the question. Will we see it in our lifetime? I don't know. How long did it take the Roman Empire to go down?
That's the funny part is it actually...
We're getting old, mate. We don't have much longer left.
No.
Probably another 40 years in us.
The Roman Empire took about towards its end. It took a good 100 years to fizzle right out of all of its remnants and its glory and everything. It took a good 100 years to fizzle right out.
Because could we see a rump American empire with the Union of Texas and California and a few other states there going on? Here's the thing. I mean, it is. We could be seeing a decline in the states. It'll be interesting to see how well their economic prosperity continues, if they can actually lift up their economy, or if they just keep generating money out of nowhere and then importing, having a continued trade deficit with China, and then China will keep build up stronger. It may just be an inevitable thing there. Just look at the propaganda that's coming out with our different militaries. Here in Australia, you have all this. Recently we had the sailors twerking in front of the Navy ship. We had the women there twerking.
Saw that.
That's
Those
a bit
girls
of a joke.
were cute.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty funny. But talking to people in the military, the blokes, they have to do 4 years. They want to get the female intake up. They really want to get it take it up. So they're getting in there for only half the amount of time. The men need to serve. So that's having a morale impact. You look at the propaganda coming out of China. It's very masculine. They're male focused. There's some pride there. You compare it to what's happening in America there in the military, all of the issues that are going on there. So, we're talking different nations here, just different perceptions. Would we have, here's a question for you. Would you have more freedom now, or would you have more freedom if you were living in Chinese run Canada with their system of government? If you really think about it, for how much taxes you pay, what you can actually do, particularly with the restrictions now, where would you have more freedom?
I think I'd have more freedom in Florida. I'd go see a Super Bowl. I'd go see a Florida Panthers game. I would, yeah. But no, to be honest, to answer your question, I think China's seeing more freedom right now than we are in Canada. To be honest, everything's locked down here, and they're pulling a Victorian style lockdown in Canada, and that's what I'm afraid of. And people don't deserve this. There's a lot of hardworking people in this country. A lot of people in Canada have really laid roots here to raise a family and to create this fabric utopia society we had for a long time. Everybody, all you needed in Canada in the 80s and 90s was a job. That's all you needed was a job. You had everything. Now we're in this where your money and your people are getting ripped off. Their labor is getting ripped off huge. We get taxed on our wages. There's a lot of work-free states in America where they don't tax you on your labor. But I think one tax that I despise the most in Canada is being taxed on your labor. That shouldn't be that every week. Every week you got to pay some tax on your labor. What? That's great. And it's a lot, Florian. It's not a little bit of money. It's not like 1-2%. It's like some people pay $400 or $500 chunks off their check. That's huge, especially when the price of food. Okay, now let's get into price of food. Is food gonna be unreachable, or you're gonna start seeing people being priced out of food?
I'm the wrong person to ask that. I still think food costs the same as when I first moved out out of home from my parents' house. So I'll go to the shops with Rachel because she does all the shopping. I'll go and see, well, why the hell is a can of tuna $2? It should only be 50 cents. What's going on? It's because mentally I'm still locked back in that. But food is getting more expensive right now. And I mean, here's the thing: is it inflation or is it supply driven? We've got a problem with our cattle supplies because of the droughts we've had here in Australia. It's the same thing that's playing up in the timber here in Australia as well as US. Our timber supplies are down because of the bushfires we've had. So food is getting more expensive. Import costs are going up. We see shipping costs going to the bloody moon. That's going to play as well through to food imports. Fortunately for Australia, we're an exporting country with a lot of food. The advice I give to people, we buy our meat in bulk. We buy like a whole beast at a time and then get it processed at the butcher, chop it up and store it for long term. If we were to eat like regular shopping, it's getting more and more expensive every day. So I think if it unattainable, I think it's going to be more a supply issue and logistical issue than anything. And that could be because of you've got all of these, shipping costs are going through the roof and it's just crazy at the moment. That's going to start trickling through to other goods and services. Yeah. But I'm not worried about going hungry. So I think a lot of people could have enough. They've got enough, emergency reserve food already. They carry around with them all the time. Right. Just fast for 40 days. You'll be fine.
Yeah. So let's look at some other headlines here. Guys, throw in your comments. We got Heise says is here. He's here for long, man. Usually, like when I get a guest on, they take off in less than an hour, and we have Peter Leeds on was for 2 hours too. But it's good that you're sticking it out on Mike in the Night, talking and getting this a conversation. Someone commented here. I like how you guys are bouncing off the conversation from each other. This is really good. Someone's telling us to buy cattle futures.
Well, I actually know a QS, quantity surveyor. He was from the country, so he runs cattle. So he just buys cattle and moves it from one farm to another, like from Queensland down where the drought is, and sells them. And that's how he makes money on it. Mate. Yeah, we pay extra. We get like a grass-fed, hormone-free cow or beef, and chop it up and eat it. And I'm getting hungry now. I'm gonna have to have a steak for dinner.
What about Soylent Green? I mean, are they pushing the Soylent Green on you guys?
Oh, the fake meat crap everywhere. Yeah, I mean, we've got generation. What is it? GI generation.
What does that mean?
Oh, those protesters. That they tape themselves. These idiots. These rich, spoiled kids in their 20s who live with mum and dad will go glue themselves to the bloody road to protest animal cruelty.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, and then they'll go out on the farms. You imagine being a farm and having 100 of these nutters coming on your farm. They're in a work environment. How terrifying would that be if they're all coming and marching on there and worried about your livestock and your animals and all this stuff? And yeah, it's that's a whole other thing. That's what worries me. This there'll be a push. People are telling me the new UN thing about the climate will really push plant-based diets. That's what I'm worried about.
Plantaroni.
We'll start hearing that again. Sorry?
Plantaroni.
Yeah. You plantaroni.
It's like it's supposed to be pepperoni. Plantaroni. Yeah, type that one in there. Plantaroni.
Plantaroni. Oh, bloody hell.
Plantaroni. Yeah, we got some plantaroni for your pizza here, sir. Would you like some plantaroni on your pizza? I'm like, what the hell is plantaroni? It's our vegan special of pepperoni, but it's made out of plants.
See, notice how all the plant stuff, it all tries to mimic meat. Because psychologically, we want the meat. You see a nice bloody piece of meat, your mouth will water because you see the blood. That's evolution right there. That's your hardwired in your body. That's food. You put some crappy vegetable shit in front of a baby and some meat, they will ignore the vegetarian like green crap and they will get handfuls of even the raw meat and they'll just eat it. They will just eat it because that's natural. That's right there. That's what people need. That scares me that we'll be having a push on to eat some of that garbage there. And you people will eat this stuff and then they'll get Alzheimer's from it. And it's
would you prefer the Frankenstein TV dinners or this whatever meat stuff?
Well, it depends. If the Frankenstein TV dinners have lard in it, like actual lard, as opposed to seed oil, then I'd have no problem with eating it. Sure, it's probably higher in carbs than what I'd normally eat.
Right.
But I mean, think about it. Seed oil has only been around for so long, and all of a sudden, once you had Keynes's heart health hypothesis of cholesterol and they cut the fat out, that's when our heart disease skyrocketed. That's
Right.
when all diabetes skyrocketed. All these problems skyrocketed. And you've got a medical industry that focuses on drugging people, not curing them. So I'm a bit cynical about all of that.
Prolonging the people. They're not finding cures for anything. And the best way, I keep saying this, the best way to commit suicide is to find a cure for cancer, and you're a goner.
Yeah, well, or just eat a normal diet for 5 years.
So it looks like tensions are building up on the Russian. What's your take on the whole Russian border? It looks like Czechs announced an expulsion of 18 Russian diplomats as Prague claims intel officers involved in the 2014 mutinous depot explosion. So it looks like there's tensions building up there along the Russian border. There always has been, but it looks like
Well, Russia can do whatever it wants, can't it? In its sphere of influence. Do you
Right.
really think America's going to intervene?
Not now.
I mean, if two nuclear powers intervene, that's the only way it can go. If China and Russia went to war with America, it would have to go nuclear, long term, because just looking at the fleet size, the tonnage of steel that is disproportionate. Sure, China's tech is catching up, but my understanding is it's so far in favor of the US that's the risk. It just goes nuclear, and then you've got mutually assured destruction. So I'm hoping that it's just a bunch of posturing. The fact that we've got, nukes have probably been the best thing for world peace in the last 50 years, really. We haven't had any big world wars. You've only had these little proxy skirmishes,
right.
Which sucks for
or
the people
limited,
there, but
limited nuclear. Yeah. Now,
so overall,
let me ask you this question: could America win its next war? They haven't won a war since World War II. I mean, they lost and faltered almost everywhere around the world. Or, again, was it prolonged for the bankers? Was it prolonged for the investors? Could America win its next war?
Oh, mate, I don't know. Depends who it's with. Would they want? I think you're right. I think they wouldn't want to. There's too much money in it.
Yeah.
Depends. If Hillary was in charge, there'd never be ending. Keep
Dog.
going.
I love Hill Dog. I'm just joking.
Know who would have been more entertaining, Hillary or bloody Biden. At least Sleepy Joe's. He's so boring. Or feel sorry for all these journalists now. They've got nothing to write. They're still writing about Trump.
Yeah.
Now they got nothing else in their career. That's their whole career. It's kind of sad. I miss it. It was much more entertaining. Yeah.
So, do you think that them banning Donald Trump from Twitter? What the hell was that about? I mean, that was terrible. Where the second he was, I guess, dethroned. Because you could say it's a chess match. The second he was dethroned, they go ahead and remove the guy off Twitter. What the hell is that about? Like really? It's like, and it's disgusting. But let me ask you, are they coming for the guns? Are they coming for the guns?
Hang on, I've got a call. I think Frederick's coming with my coffee. They're coming. Well, isn't that what they're pushing? He wants to get an executive order or something in to disarm the populace.
That's right.
Oh, he hasn't come here. Yeah.
Did he get arrested?
Oh, can you check him? Okay, bye. We're actually, hang on, I got to open this. We're actually living 3 houses up the street where we're renting a little place. So all the family's up there. So Frederick, my little 5-year-old is carrying my coffee all the way.
Oh, wow. I didn't know it was so out of the way.
He's been sent on a mission to bring it. We'll see how he goes. He's probably being real careful with it. Did not spill Daddy's coffee.
But don't you have a couple of mugs?
Oh, I got half a liter here. I'm running everything off a power pole, so I've only got 20 amps coming into the studio here. So if I put a jug in, I can't run the computer.
Oh shoot!
So that's I was cheap. I went for the cheaper Powerball to save myself a couple of $100 every 6 months. So I got to bring the coffee up the street.
Okay, let's go back to Twitter real quick before we jump onto the gun ban. Scott in the comments said, "I made a list of 1,000 of truth speakers that have been banned from Twitter in the past year alone."
I mean, it's Twitter. They've got a woke agenda. They're part of Silicon Valley, and they're in Biden's camp. Why is anyone surprised that they're doing that? They're biased. They're just biased. That's what they are, and that's been clearly displayed, particularly with Biden's son. Sharing any of the articles and things critical of him, you couldn't do it on social media.
Oh, you
And
can't
there's
talk about that laptop. You can't talk about if even if people. But here's the thing, Florian. If people found out that Biden's son was this, that, if they were like laid out a blueprint of everything piece by piece, so they could understand every issue that happened with his son, they'll look at that and say, "Well, it's not Donald Trump, so we don't care."
Well, yeah, honestly, I think that's the biggest problem with the last election. I think a lot of people just thought orange man bad, free money. I think that's what a lot of people thought. Oh, I'm getting $2,000. Oh, wait a minute, I'm not now. Oh, it's only half anyway. And they just orange man bad because they're in these echo chambers in this bubble. They just believe everything they're told. They just only watch CNN. They don't look at multiple news sources. They think he's a racist when he's not. That's just how it is. I think it's a lot of people just not sinking their teeth into the news because you look at the headlines. I see it all in this property stuff. Here's something I noticed because I've been following a lot of economists and people who write articles for the property sector and the economy. So I'll be going through. Hang on. Oh. Thank you. Freddie, you want to come say hello? Okay. So hello, Frederick. Thank you for bringing the coffee.
Hey,
Thank you very much, Freddie. Thank you.
cute kid.
Oh, he's been waiting out there for 20 minutes to bring the
Why?
coffee, and I had the door shut.
Oh no.
He didn't want to disturb me while I was recording. He's good. Oh, good boy. I lost my train of thought now. What was I saying?
We're talking about Twitter, blah blah blah, all this stuff, and the banning and the people that work there.
Yes. So I'm following these economists in the media, and I'm seeing them. I'm noticing that they're shopping around certain articles. They're going, "Oh, do you know an editor who'd be interested in this?" So they're finding a bit of information in an RBA report that they can paint in a negative light. So they'll shop it to try and get some, activity from one person or another. So it's interesting to see that, that the media, news that we're consuming and that we're being fed, it's all agenda driven. We can't really say how many people are independent journalists. I think that's now coming on this media, on the social media, where people are funded by viewers, where you've got people looking at things directly or talking to people on the street. I think that's the world of journalism, where the other ones you've got corporate bias coming through. You've got it in the. So Twitter, I mean, it's a left-wing organization there. I'm not surprised they banned him at all. I wasn't shocked or surprised. I was surprised they let him on there that long. He probably gave them relevance. He probably made more money for Twitter than anyone else because people went on there and engaged with the stupid platform. I mean, now is he on Gab?
I think he is. I see him on Insta. I'm on Instagram because that's the only platform right now where if you send me a message, it doesn't get flagged for it going against the going against the company's
community standards.
Right. So I go into my fan page. I go into messages. I got like 43 messages. I go to the message. This message has been removed. Blah blah blah. This link has been removed. Blah.
Really?
So Instagram, I get the message. It doesn't flag it. It doesn't take it off as a. Instagram for me has been really good for people on the show messaging me directly or to speak to me directly is the best. You could email me, but people just want to send me a link or they don't want to email me, right? So, yeah.
Have you got a Discord, mate?
I had one, but it's just too much. Like, having a YouTube channel alone is enough for me. I could multi-stream and platform. I just want to get my message out, or I just want to get out there and get people talking is all. You know what I'm saying? I'm not heavily educated. I don't have a lot of things on my side when it comes to oops. I think I minimized you there by accident. Oops. I don't have a lot going for me. There you go. I don't have a lot going, like, when it comes to that kind of stuff. I was more of like the guy at the back of the class that kind of had to just get by type of thing, and just, and I never really educationally wise. I was more of like, I kind of did my own thing and always owned my own businesses, and I worked in the finance sector for a little while and kind of learned that and kind of saw the angle on that. But you know what? I just want to get my word out and what people think and blah, blah, blah. But I did catch YouTube. I did catch them. And I'll show you how I caught them. You're not going to believe this. Open up your screen there on your side so you can see this. So I'm going to go to my YouTube channel, okay? And what they've been doing to me for a long time now is they've been removing my views and my likes and dislikes. But I caught them because you're going to see it right here under community. Okay, guys, pay attention to this. This is what they're doing to us. Look
at community tab.
Well, I'm opening it. You can see it on your screen right now. I have it on the show.
Oh, okay.
So pay attention to this, guys. 1123. There's my battery. There's everything there. Can't breathe, suffocating, carbon, whatever, blah, blah, blah. 488. And then 2021, Australia, island prisoned. Australia's turning into an island prison. 496 views, right? 1 minute later, 1124. They knock off like 20, 30 views on each video.
Well, they've been having a whole thing, like the last few days, from the 6th to the 12th. They've been having subscriber number issues. They've been so I think they're rolling out something. That's the thing with YouTube. They'll roll out something, and then you'll see bugs through the whole bloody thing. I've noticed it all the time.
But what I noticed is I've had a gentleman call me today at the store, and he called me to tell me that this is the third time he's been unsubscribed to my channel. Like I'm not on his subscriber list, and he keeps going back to find me. And he's like, "Oh, I wonder if Mike's still on YouTube," and basically realizes that he's been unsubscribed to me, and that's happened quite a few times to people.
It could also be if people are doing stuff that that it thinks is a bot. If people are like trolling around saying certain things, so YouTube thinks it's a bot. When they do bot purges.
Oh, I love bot purges.
I get all the bloody people faking your account. Put your picture up there.
I love
pretend
that.
to be you, and then say, "Oh, look, thank you for your wonderful comment. Here's my WhatsApp address. I'll give you financial advice." Now, depending on the demo of your audience, most people are not going to fall for it, but some people might. And I report all of those to YouTube because they're fraudulently mimicking someone. And I actually keep a log of all of those websites, those channels, and I go back and check months later, and they're still there. But what they've done is they've changed to be someone else. So they're these fake channels that just go through everywhere and are just botting all this crap. Do you get all that on yours too?
I get people creating accounts with me, like my picture, and saying, "Hey guys, if you want to invest in crypto or learn more about crypto, go ahead and sign up for my course," or some BS like that. And I'm like, and I made a video about it a while back saying, "Guys, I can't even read. Why the hell would I have a course out there?" You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know. Mike, you are correct on YouTube, says Leo. We got Scott saying, "I caught them on Doug Ford. They deleted 1,000 dislikes." Yeah, the White House one. The White House was caught cheating. They removed, I think it was 39,000 dislikes on the... How could the most popular president in the history of the planet and Jupiter and Mars be so popular that he gets booed at the Super Bowl and he gets so many dislikes and he gets booed everywhere he goes? He can't go in specific public places with gatherings because they will boo him. What is going on?
Oh, it's because you promise everyone free money and then you don't give it to them. I mean, isn't that the only reason he got in? There's a whole lot of rigmarole about it, but if you tell everyone you're going to give them $2,000 free and then you stuff it up, that's going to piss everyone off.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think that's a big part of it. Is a whole lot of people were thinking they were getting some free cash because everyone likes free money, and the government's going to screw you one way or another. So they give you some free money, you spend it and turn it into something worth money before it evaporates. And he's screwing them. He's screwing them all over. Good old Sleepy Joe pulled another fast one on him.
So
yeah.
So it was pretty bad. It was like a lot of avoidances in this new administration. They're avoiding a lot of things. And then the State of the Union address or the acceptance, what is that speech they give when they become, that took them forever. That's the longest it took for any standing president to announce or give his, acceptance speech or whatever it's called. And that took forever to get out. And I have a good friend of mine who does a trucking. He trucks from Detroit to Orlando, Florida, one highway. I-75, one highway.
Yep.
Goes all the way to Orlando. Goes over to Miami if you want to go. And you know what he told me? There's not more than 3 miles of highway where if from Detroit all the way down where you don't see anything that's pro-Trump or Trump this, Trump flags, Trump posters, Trump murals, Trump banners, Trump on the overpasses, Trump this, Trump for America, Trump party. I love Donald Trump. Donald Trump is my man. if you believe in freedom, vote for Trump. He took photos and he showed me his dash cam. I watched through 2 hours of his dash cam because I was bored, and there's all this Trump stuff going through Kentucky, going through Georgia, like it's everywhere. You don't see a damn Biden. You don't see nothing for Biden.
What would be scarier, mate? The idea that, okay, the establishment and the media colluded to get Biden in,
right?
One way or another. What would be scarier? Would that be scarier, or the fact that he offered a whole bunch of stupid idiots free money, and they all didn't give a shit about what was going on, thought, oh, Orange Man bad, or I want my free money, ticked a box and went that in, and then they don't give a damn? What of those is scarier? One actually takes a whole lot of effort and organization, so that at least your evil, corrupt government that got in dodgily knows what they're doing. At least they can organize something right. Where the other is they offer everyone a bunch of free money, and they can't even deliver on that. So, I mean, do you want your evil overlords to be organized, or do you want them to be a bunch of incompetent idiots? Which is more dangerous? That's how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, that's like a 50-50 paradigm there. That's like, you know what that sounds like? Heads I win, tails you lose.
Yeah.
You flip a coin. Heads I win, tails you lose. And it's like, it's one of those scary paradigms. Now, when is the Borealis coming into view, Heise? When are we going to start to see when are things going to come to light? When are we going to really be told the truth? When are they going to start telling us? When the Borealis comes in view and everyone could see it at the same time. When will this happen? When will we see it happen?
Mate, your guess is as good as mine. How long can they kick the can down the road? How long can they keep it all going? It may not be in our lifetime, or it may be next week, when it all starts falling apart. I mean, here in Australia, how long have they kept our property bubble going? They just keep pushing it on and on and on and on and on further. I think if enough people aren't really upset. Now, I honestly think that's one reason why they like having such an indebted population. You want your people financially illiterate, you want them indebted, and you want them slaving away for their houses, and then they'll be compliant. This is my tin hat conspiracy theory here.
There's no such thing as,
isn't.
No. There's no such thing as tin hat conspiracy because everything's coming to light. You know that term conspiracy theory was spun on November 22nd, 1963.
Well, it would take a lot of effort to actually pull a conspiracy off without people coming out and hearing about it, to be honest. Mm-hmm. So I think there's, even if it's just a natural outcome of all of these things coming together, there's an incentive to keep your population this way. The more indebted you are, the less likely you're going to cause trouble. So that's where I come back to simply teaching financial literacy in schools. Getting a generation that's free of dependency on the state is the first step to freeing people from this yoke that's placed upon them. And then you get a population that cares and that can speak up and that might actually take some activity, because you got so many people that have lost hope. And what do people do when they lost hope? They either disengage, or a lot of, they go hard left and they want government to the rescue and intervention, and then willing to sacrifice all their freedoms for everything. You're seeing the younger generations calling for that.
Well, when people run out of things to lose and they have nothing to lose, they fight back.
Yes, but you're still not at that point yet. You're indebted. Yeah. So you don't have something to lose. Sure, you don't own your house. Sure, you're slaving away at it. Sure, you're working, your ass off, but there's a hope at the end of the tunnel. You may keep going through the rigmarole. That's where these lockdowns in some ways has been really interesting, because you're seeing people loved it. Some people loved the lockdown, and you're going, oh, how could you dare, love the jackboot, which isn't really what it was. It was people getting off the bloody treadmill for the first time. For the first time in their lives, they may have got a holiday. They may have actually spent some time with their kids that they've never seen because they're just working a shit job again and again. Realize what it actually was. That's what I think the real thing of it was. That's why some people loved it and are calling for it. They're saying, oh, we need a lockdown every year for 3 weeks. Yeah, that's called a holiday, mate. That's what previous generations could afford when you didn't have to work yourself to death just to live a normal life.
In Florida, when I lived in Florida, a holiday would be when we have a hurricane and we'd have hurricane parties. And everybody, there was we'd have no power for a week or two. So we'd go have hurricane parties, and that's the holidays in Florida, right? We got Silver Pill Gary in the comments saying the new generations are broke with student debt and can barely afford a car, let alone a house. That's why foreign investors, because it's the only thing keeping it going.
Yeah. I mean, the whole student debt thing in America how is it in Canada? Oh, because here in
it's
Australia,
crazy. Everybody bought into that whole FOMO. Hillary Clinton's the best in
no,
Canada.
I mean with how does university education work over there? Do people have to borrow money to go to private university? Here in Australia, we've got HECS, where you pay it off. You get a tax loan. You pay it off over the course of your work life. If you don't pay it off before you die, it disappears, and it's like just tagged at inflation. So it's the cheapest money in the world. So that's kind of how we have it here.
What happened with student loans in Canada is very interesting that you bring that up, is because before student loans became federalized, it was super cheap to go to university in Canada.
Oh no.
You could work on the weekends and pay your student loans off and your tuition and your car and everything. Back then you didn't have car payments because people just bought outright, right? People never borrowed money for cars back in the day. But you would be able to go ahead and work a summer and have enough money through the year to last you to live. Now, once they federalized student loans and student loans became federalized and make it everybody afford to go to school, it actually turned the table and made it unaffordable, and they started skyrocketing the prices on tuition and books and all kinds of stuff because now it became federalized. Same thing with car insurance, Heise. Before it became mandatory and federalized, car insurance was dirt cheap. You could insure your car for $7 a month because no one would want to get insurance for their car because you didn't have to get it. But then it became federalized, and they federalized car insurance. Now car insurance went through the roof because it's mandatory.
No. Well, now, you in Canada, can't you just say, I identify as a 30-year-old woman and then get cheaper car insurance?
I don't even know if you...
There was a guy that did that over in Canada, wasn't it? I swear I read
No,
about that
I
guy.
think it was the guy on the dating app that wanted to identify as a 37-year-old instead of 69.
Okay. I swear there was a guy that got it legally identified as a woman just to get cheaper insurance. I'll send it to you. I'll look it up. I think it's another one of your Canadian things to be proud of, mate. Trudeau probably signed off on it himself.
I don't doubt that happened, especially in Canada. But wow, yeah.
Hey, mate. Hey, you save money. I mean, come on, those insurance bills add up.
But my problem is, Heise, the problem I've been having for the longest time, I identify as an Apache helicopter.
Oh, very cool. Good.
Yeah. Don't identify me as a toaster. I don't like that.
You don't like toasters?
No, I don't want to be identified as a toaster. But I like being identified as an Apache helicopter. That was in what TV show was that on? I think that was in South Park. Where they were.
Yep.
Yeah, South Park. Do you watch South Park down in Australia?
Yeah. I've kind of got over it the last few years, but
Oh, you got to go back in because PC Principal is there. PC Principal, who's politically correct, is in it. Oh my God, you have no idea what you gotta watch. You gotta catch up on South Park where you left off. Maybe you can start from season 18 and go up. You're gonna get a lot of good politically correct stuff or politically incorrect stuff that only South Park is allowed to talk about.
Okay. I'll have to jump back in. It's been a while. I played the game. I got the South Park game. I quite enjoyed that. That was good.
Right, but lately, like it's been very like the whole Covey thing with Covey.
Oh yeah, I haven't. I want to see the pandemic special. That's meant to be good. I thought didn't they make a movie about that?
Yes, they did. That was pretty good. That did really well apparently. And okay, here we go. Mitch Madden saying Mike Tyson can fight a woman as long as proper ID. Oh, you got to see that South Park special about this guy that enters the Women's Olympics or something, and he identifies, and he looks like Macho Man Randy Savage.
I did see that. I saw it on YouTube.
He goes, "We're not here to discuss my gender and my transition. We are here, and I'm gonna kick some butt here." It's like,
I mean that whole thing's just gonna destroy women's sports. That's what it's gonna do. It's just kind of sad, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, we got that rubbish here in Australia too. The same thing from the left coming through politics, the same rhetoric coming all the way through. Your trickle down a rhetoric right there.
Trickle down a rhetoric, or trickle down of malfeasance, or trickle down of I've heard that term being used in different pieces of journalism that I've read over the years. But yeah. But I don't know what's going to happen, Heise. We're in a position right now that I don't even know where to look anymore. My moral compass is completely off. I just don't even know what to believe, who to listen. I know what I believe in. I know, I see loud and clear what's happening, but I just feel so bad for so many people that are just not awake. They have no idea if they're tricking or treating. They're following. It's like the blind leading the blind.
Well, you can. I mean, here's the thing: you don't want to take on others' burdens. You don't want to let that weight go upon you. You want to do the best you can for your family and for your community, and simply just speaking the truth. Even if you're yelling out to the void, if you can make a small difference, you'll be surprised at how that can go over time. Bit by bit, more and more people are becoming active politically. They're starting to challenge the status quo. They're questioning what they're seeing in the media, and the fact that we can have this conversation on one side of the planet to the other. That's a good thing. So there's all the things that can bring, all that can bring this political social justice rubbish going through all the world, people that can manipulate entire populations through the media all over the world. That we also have the counter to that. We've got the ability to question that and to challenge that too, like we never would have had in the past. You've got access to more information. You can learn stuff easier than you ever could in the past. You've got more opportunities than previous generations. I mean, here, these days, we're in a nightmare where you can't even afford a house. But, I can find out that the dietary guidelines from the Australian government are complete bullshit and wrong, and get cutting-edge lectures from people all over the world on my mobile phone. What would I rather? Have an affordable house, but then die of Alzheimer's or a heart attack at 60, like some people did a few years ago, or people I know? Or would I rather, let them screw around with that and have access to more information? So, there's kind of a give and take. You can go too far down in the whole doomer gloom aspect, and that's the danger if you keep consuming this information to talk about it, where there are a lot of positives out there as well, a lot of opportunities that we have. And I think it really, you need to look at your kids, and you need to give them strength, knowledge, and understanding, so then the future generation can build forward. That's at least my hope. Maybe I'm being naive, but that's what I look at when it all gets a bit too frustrating. And just have a stoic mindset, mate.
Yeah, no, I hear you. All right, we're approaching our third. We've been talking for almost 3 hours. You know that, right?
Oh, really? Oh, I don't have a timer up, so I'm just rambling. I'm okay, mate. Well, maybe you want to call it then. If we
my show's 3 hours long, right? So.
If I'm taking your whole show.
That's okay. No. We're gonna get next week we're gonna do first time callers on the show, so people call in for the first time.
Yep.
And next week we'll be doing first time callers on the show, and it's good to have a good co-host to go over a couple of articles, to go over a couple of points of views, to get get perspective on the ground in another English speaking country in the southern eastern hemisphere, and kind of connect the dots together. And kind of make sense of where we think things are going, and what we feel is happening, and that's kind of important that we could do this. You know what I mean? This is very important.
Well, I'd like to get you on my show when I get organized, because I've been watching some of your back catalog, particularly about your moving into the town that you live, and then some of the people that were having issues with you going there, and some of the I thought that was quite interesting. So I'd like to. Because a lot of people are doing that now. People are going to doing the green change. So property in the regions is going up because people are moving out of the cities because they can afford to live there. And now we're meant to be able to work remotely, and that's falling over for some people, and they're stuck in the middle of nowhere. But I think it'd be interesting to hear your story about your journey getting out of the big city and into a more rural area.
Yeah, no, there's a story and a half I could tell you. Yeah, I could tell you a story and a half about that, and my struggle to I'd go see a home with my wife, and then we go look at a house, and then we go back a day later. It either sold $400,000 above asking, or
what?
Yeah. So it's like, what? Because I lived in Florida, I know bang for my buck when I see it. I'm not paying $2.6 million for a 2-bedroom with a cracked foundation, because I could buy Shaquille O'Neal's house for half that price in Florida. So you know what I mean? Yeah. So there's a story and a half to be told about that for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, mate, thank you very much for inviting me on your show. Sorry it's taken so long to get together.
That's okay. Everybody has life, right? Life is it happens. It takes away. Time waits for nobody, right? So
yeah, that's it. It's going quick.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. giving us your perspective, and we'll in the next 6 months or so, when our winter hits here, we'll have you on. It's going to be your spring if you want to come back in 6 months, and you could tell us what's going down there with the property markets, what's happening economically there, and usually that's springtime is when things start getting jumpy down there.
Oh, it's crazy, mate. Hopefully we'll be able to leave the country then.
Oh,
We'll
yeah,
see
I
how
hope
that
so.
goes. Yeah.
I hope so.
Take care, mate. Nice
Take
chatting to
care.
you.
God bless you. Bye.
Cheers.
Bye,
All the
Heise.
best.
Cheers. Thank you. Wow, that was the longest guest we've had on our show, guys. Holy. I was going to tell him thank you. I should have got him to do a woo while he was on the show. That's okay. We'll do it here. Woo! Wow, that was a lot, and that's good. We covered a lot of ground. Next week, guys, Mike in the Night, we're going to be doing first-time callers. I want to dedicate maybe the second or third hour to first-time callers. Well, I want to get Supreme Canon on to catch up with a few things if he's got a little bit of time. I hope Supreme Canon could come on next week. Maybe we could get on what's happening with the whole, you know what's happening there with the rail movements across Canada, and give us an update on that. I would like to get the Raven on too, to get us an update maybe next week on Mike in the Night. It is Mike in the Night, folks. People of the night, welcome to Mike in the Night. Yeah, we're gonna be. I'm gonna do one last channel plug, and we will be. There it is, right there. Channel plug, guys. Guys, thanks for subscribing, being part of the channel. Don't forget to check out our legendary guests. Someone commented on that the other day, like, wow, you had so many people on your show. We're going to add Florian for sure to this list here of legendary guests. We had Peter Leeds on. We had Uneducated Economist on. We had Tony from God Rules. We had Alaska Prepper on. We had Jeb Smith on. We had Christina Smallhorn on. We even had Frankie McDonald on. Legendary Bond King, Stephen Van Meter. We had Martin North on. We had all kinds of great guests come on the show, and I appreciate everyone taking their time to being here with us. Okay, so also don't forget to set your whatchamacallit here. I want everybody to call in. I want everybody to add me on Skype. Mike Martins 1980. On Skype. So what we'll do is we'll have Supreme Canon on first. Hopefully he could be here first for next week's show, so we could go over some articles together, because he's good at deciphering some of the messages that they are giving us in the media. Then don't forget to pick up something at the store. We got all kinds of cool stuff at the store. The dirt bike t-shirt selling really well. Don't forget to pick up something from Mike in the Night there in the store. Also, do not message me anything on. Look, there's not even a single person saw this post. Not even a single person, and I have 114,000 followers on this damn Facebook page. And guys, go ahead and send me stuff on Instagram. It's just safer. It doesn't get blocked, and I could see it. Please go ahead and send me stuff on Instagram. It's the better way for me to get your messages. And Heise says, let's have a look. Here's his link to his channel. Respectfully, if everyone could go over and subscribe. Heise is very like-minded. We're very like-minded when it comes to a lot of these views. Let's see what he's got here. Calls to ban artificial stone. We got workers abandon woke labor. Threats to China and talk of war. Wow. Western Australia mining to the rescue. Iron ore fueled the economy. Right there. He talked about that on tonight's show right there. 20-year-old first-time homebuyer. Wow. That's impressive. Yeah, what else we got here? Lying about the reset. All kinds of stuff here on his channel. Man, he's got a lot of good stuff. I didn't see this one. Buy Tesla with Bitcoin. I didn't see that one. I see a lot of his stuff. He's got all other channels too. Heise says US, Heise tutorials, and Heise games. He's got lots here. Look at this, man. And he's been on the show with John Adams. He's had a lot of good guests here on his interviews here. Lots of good guests on his channel too. So check it out, guys. Heise says, check out his channel. Lots going on. It is Mike in the Night. And I'm going to be... Well, let me find my song here so I could wind down this show for you guys. Thanks for coming on, guys. Where's this? Is reggae music? What is this? Where is this? Where is it? Mike in the Night. Music! by Ralphie.co.New Zealand. Music by Ralphie.co.New Zealand.
Do we want more? As one we have the power to set us free.
Don't forget to check out Art by Dano, artbydano.com.
Mike in the night, oh, Mike in the night.
You're talking about
Join us in
all men. You're talking about
join us
all
in
men.
the chat room. You see us talking here, then through the door. 'Cause now we're planning to hit them streets. Mike in the night room, oh, Mike in the night room. Read a real life, feel Missouri. Read a real life, feel Missouri. Oh, Mike, don't worry about a thing.
Thank you, Rick Nielsen, Limmy Poo, David H., Leo, Hittin' Stacks, John Ming, Anna Key, Zai Forgot, Rick Nielsen, V-Man293, who else we got here? Mitch Madden, John Ming,
Down here on Peasant Street,
Papa Pissed,
past the boulevard, broken dreams.
Moonlight.
All still happening.
Moonlight's here tonight. Double A. I think I said Rick Nielsen. I think I said that. I think I did. Who else is here tonight? Silver Pill Gary.
Mike in the night,
Scott Horika. Tignim.
why is it still
King Brown.
so easily? Oh, don't you worry about a thing.
Thank you everyone for joining in on Mike in the Night tonight. Take care, and if you can't take care, please be careful.